All he wanted desperately was one thing: to be happy. One day, fate hits, so you fall in love and you end up laughing with your best friends. And to somehow dodge all the chaos and end up living a totally ordinary school life. That's exactly what he'd been begging for every single time. On Monday, they jumped him and beat him down. On Tuesday, they dumped toilet water on his face, and on Wednesday, his private photos hit the internet. On Thursday, he kicked off his plan to finally step into the metaphysical world for good. Today's Friday, just like that, the weekend's finally calling. Fall from that height and it's over for him. There's no way that won't kill him. Still, if he times it right, he could live. He just has to steer his drop so he crashes onto the ground, landing clean on the bushes. Right before you could move, a girl burst into the scene and told you straight up that there was someone else here too. He never expected anyone else to show up, and now he's stuck, frozen, not knowing what to do next. He shot the girl a quick glance and caught her spinning halfway around. He begged her to hold up for a second because he needed to call someone while she might be on her way to disappear. But then she did something that shocked him. She snatched a bird out of the air with her bare hands, showing him the wild animal up close. She said it was a crow, and then pointed out how its lifeless body had been sprawled on the terrace. While she was already chatting with the boy, she leaned in and demanded, was it really his dream to be as alive as that crow? Because if he was really going to do it, he'd be handing his entire life to her instead. At first, he had zero clue what the proposal even meant until this girl leaned in and said that dying would be a horrible waste, because life is packed with fun things only the living get to do. That comment lit a fuse in him. He snapped that she didn't know a thing about him, and he wouldn't just sit there like the right answer for his life could be decided by anyone else. So he figured she'd only shown up to roast him right to his face. But the girl shook her head and insisted the terrace wasn't why she'd come. But her real plan was to give the boys a reason to live that actually meant something. That sentence about his whole life hit him hard, and it made him rethink everything. She straight up asked him what flashed through his mind the moment he spotted that crow. The girl asked if she didn't find the dead body cute, but the look on the boy's face screamed pure disgust. When he told her he didn't find it beautiful at all, she nodded right along with him. Because that body was already gone, just a reeking, rotten heap of garbage, nothing else. They treated you like pure garbage at school, calling you an idiot, treating you like human trash. That creature was at least heading for a better place after it died, turning into something more than trash while he stayed a walking piece of garbage, even alive. The girl leaned in and demanded to know if that's why you wanted to end his life. And yeah, that was exactly what lit a fire under him to dash up to the terrace that day. Still, she stood right there like she was about to drill him with a lesson, and the boy couldn't stop wondering what she was really trying to pull off. Even after they talked, she wasn't about to stop him from doing exactly what he wanted. She knew nothing about him, but one look was enough. His life had to be painfully miserable. Pinching him between her fingers, she leaned in and demanded, "Tell me more. Are you really going to stay trash for the rest of his life?" That question lit a fuse in him because it hit a part of him that refused to accept it. Because you want the same normal life too, friends. Real laughter, and a day that feels just like everyone else's. Even though he knew a girlfriend was totally out of the question, he still refused to waste his youth. He was determined to live for the best days of his life. Now the girl finally grasped exactly how he felt. Gripping the railing, she swore she could guarantee him a life just like that. That statement hit the boy like a brick wall. He couldn't even move or blink. She scrambled up onto the railing just to get closer to him. If he really wants to finish school and move on with his life, he should hand over control to her now. He needs to turn into her puppet, only then will happiness finally hit him. And because he wanted a girlfriend so badly, if he really played the role of her puppet, she'd gladly help him out however she could. There's no way that offer was a bad deal for him. He couldn't have asked for better. Now she wanted to know if he really wanted that to happen, and even though he hesitated, he still snapped back that it wasn't what he wanted at all. Suddenly, the girl snatched him by the collar, yanking him up by his tie. She'd already leapt off that ledge, yelling that they were doing this right now. As they crashed down, she leaned in and demanded a deal. If they both lived, he'd have to turn into her puppet. As they dropped through the sky, he couldn't believe it was real. Then the ground surged closer, and death started feeling seconds away. As he tumbled, memories of the worst moments in his life came crashing back. Any excuse was enough to drag him through humiliating sessions, over and over until he finally snapped and swore he'd never be someone else's victim again. In the middle of every humiliating blow, he'd sit there thinking, Why me? But rage kept burning inside him while he stood totally helpless, choking on every chance to fight back. He could only hope every last one of them would burn in hell. The fall was done, and they hit the bushes hard, then pain stabbed through him right away, and agony took over as he realized he might not have broken his arm after all. Right next to him was the girl, grinning at everything that just went down like none of it could break her. The fall didn't hit hard enough to finish them off. Then the girl snatched his arms, grinned, and declared, "From this moment on, you're my puppet." Now they had to start really understanding each other, and once again she made it crystal clear that the boy was nothing but her puppet. She would pull the strings that controlled him, like he was nothing but her puppet. And just like that, he would throw himself into a dance for her, like the whole world stopped. To help him get it, she told him to picture himself as a remote-controlled car. He still had no clue why she was doing any of this. But for her, the truth was painfully simple. She was sick and tired of watching her own life slip by. So she made her move. She decided to take control of someone else. And in that moment, she could forge the perfect life for him, right from scratch. Kneeling at his feet, she promised to drag him into a perfect, happy life, so all he had to do was become her puppet. Now he sat there, still in the thing called treat, staring at the sky like, could I really be happy? And if happiness was even real, he didn't mind at all being a puppet. All he ever wanted was a shot at real happiness. She told him, yes, happiness is possible. And suddenly that was his first real command, go build a life that actually makes you happy. She leaned in close, then told the boy, close your eyes. She pressed her lips to his like they'd been lovers across every timeline and this one. No way had it even crossed his mind. That left him stunned. Replaying it in his head, how did someone just suddenly steal a kiss? She told him that a kiss fires up the body's chemical rush, especially oxytocin, the feel-good hormone that throws you straight into pure euphoric bliss. She dreams of seeing every single one of her puppets smile, because a happy ending story is always the one you can't look away from. That's why he's about to break into real happiness. To make it happen, you've got to obey every single one of her commands. She doesn't want a disobedient puppet, and if he ever dares to rebel, she'll snap him into place. Now he's got another command coming his way. The girl pushes him to spill one of his deepest wishes, but he's stuck. He can't decide what to say. So she makes it simple. If he ever won a perfect life and met a magical genie, what would he wish for? If you were given one wish, anything you want, could you even handle it? He swore he'd get revenge on every single person who ever bullied him. Hearing that, the girl lit up and declared it was a brilliant idea. He'd laid it all out so perfectly that now she'd finally give in because this was his true wish, the exact opposite of what she expected. And once she heard it, she lit up with joy. She promised him, face to face, that she'd turn this wish into reality. By the time the day was over, he bolted back to his home. He sprawled in bed with his arm wrapped tight, all because that fall wrecked him. And if he still thought that girl was just some weird outcast, even after she promised she'd grant his wish, nothing shifted still. It would have been better if he'd just died. Looking back to his very first day at school, it's like nothing went right. He got bullied over the stupidest, tiniest stuff, and it's honestly hard to believe. Nothing about his life matters anymore, while he sat there wishing that he could. And tomorrow would never, ever arrive. Still, he had no choice. He had to march right back to school. The charity building they're in gets totally wrecked, vandalism everywhere. And he still can't wrap his head around the fact he managed to come back at all. The boys snapped that the trash was poisoning the whole room with a brutal stink. He couldn't believe it. He'd snapped his own arm. He figured the kid must have taken a brutal fall and he could practically feel the agony. He tried to scribble something on the cast, anything he could, but when he realized humiliation was coming, he snapped and wouldn't let the guy write a thing. After that blast of emotion, the boys abruptly dropped the whole thing and lost interest. He snapped that the kid was a total buzzkill and told him to just go sit his butt down already. But that wasn't normal behavior at all, and it left his mind racing. As they headed to his seat, someone leaned in and promised they'd blow the others' minds with something seriously awesome. That guy never listens. He just does whatever he wants, no matter what anyone says. As expected, he reached up and yanked the boy from behind Crack, and the impact slammed him to the floor, tearing desks and chairs out of the way as he dragged himself down. That jerk was running his mouth, bragging up his kick like it was perfectly clean and flawlessly executed. He had to know, did anyone catch what he did on camera? And one of his friends swore they already had. They laughed their way through the recording because it turned out insanely cool, And while that chaos played out, the boy who'd been assaulted dragged himself back to his feet again. And that was the clearest sign he was back in full power, ready to throw down for round 2. This time, the jerk decided to throw hands. Before the assault could keep going, a girl burst into the classroom and flashed a bright greeting to everyone. It was the same girl from that day, and she was back asking what in the world they were doing. That jerk clocked her instantly and couldn't stop staring. Then he leaned in and demanded to know what class she was in. The teacher guy claimed she'd been in the class from day 1 because she transferred in. He couldn't believe it, she was a transfer student, and he was even more stunned when she was standing there waiting for him. When he heard that, the jerk demanded, "Why didn't the teacher tell us before?" And she snapped back that she'd already announced it at yesterday's assembly. Realizing his mistake, he rushed to apologize, admitted he should have listened, and smiling politely asked her name. She leaned in and told me, "I'm Kamada Kubaro." Then she spotted her own name on the blackboard. As she closed in on the jerk, she flashed a smile and told him it was truly a pleasure to finally meet him. When he realized even her name sounded beautiful, he pushed for her phone number. No way was he letting that chance slip. And the girls passed it around with zero problems at all. With her UR code in hand, that jerk smugly added her to his friend list. He begged them to stop fighting and actually get along. And the jerk swaggered up, pitching his name like it mattered, really. The protagonist watched the moment unfold, and it crushed him with sadness, until the girl finally locked eyes with him and her curiosity sparked. She just had to know the boy's name, the one with that injured arm. Marching right up to him, I completely shut that jerk down. She admitted that the day before, she'd blown her shot to ask him his name. He stuttered for a second, then finally forced out an answer. Then he leaned in and said, "My name's Kiba Yudo." The girl lit up and told him his name was amazing, then admitted she felt genuinely lucky to have met him. To that jerk, the moment the girl showed even a little interest, he smugly decided she must be completely out of her mind. Then he started spilling embarrassing stories about Kava right there for everyone to hear. She strode up to him and demanded to know why she should even care about that. Because, in her honest opinion, it totally looked like he was about to dump the most painfully boring story ever. She snapped a glance at the teacher and demanded to know where her seat was. She got the word that she'd be seated right beside Kiba. This had fate written all over it for her. She could barely contain her excitement to finally sit right beside Kiba. The juror sat there, eyes locked on the chaos as it all unfolded. He just froze, stunned and speechless because he couldn't figure out why she picked the other die instead of him. In his head, Cavil was nothing but a total loser who'd just stepped straight into dog poop. He couldn't wrap his head around why they chose Cattle. With his phone in hand, he was ready to humiliate Tipple again. He'd rope the new girl into a virtual group, then slap up a video just to make Kiba get humiliated. During their lunch break, Kaiba and the girl decided to grab a meal together. Lunch break hit, and Cabo leaned in asking if she couldn't eat with someone else, but the girl shut her down and refused. After all, this was the perfect moment to unleash a brutally strategic move. Even after taking a bite, he still had no clue what she was really hinting at. So she leaned in and demanded to know if he'd truly wiped what happened the day before from his mind. They weren't just standing there, they were gearing up to get revenge on every single person who bullied him. She told him she'd been invited to join the class's virtual group, and then she even showed him. And it was one of those brutal videos where Kipple got humiliated in front of everyone. That total jerk grabbed her attention and immediately simmered with rage after she rejected him. While that video kept roasting Cable, he snapped at her to not watch it. She snapped that there was no reason to freak out since she'd already seen what was inside, then admitted she still feels mortified whenever she's naked. Killa's rage only burned hotter. Everything about the situation was pure misery. The girl blurted, "Wait, was I not supposed to watch it?" And he made it crystal clear that she absolutely shouldn't have. Humiliation crushed him. He couldn't even wrap his head around why she'd gone and spotted it in the first place. Yeah, it might sound like a small embarrassment, but trust me, what he was dealing with was way worse. The girl pressed him hard, and he hated that anyone could see it because she was really asking if that was truly what he wanted. Then she leaned in and asked him, straight up, if it had been published on a public platform. And he made it crystal clear it wasn't in a group at all. She grinned like trouble, because if this was the exact same kind of case, they can upload the original video themselves. That totally ridiculous idea was the one Kaba couldn't stop thinking about. Heepa wouldn't touch something that humiliating. No sane person would ever even consider it. He even worried that every word he said might have landed wrong with her because deep down, he couldn't stand that video. The girl turned to you and blurted out, "Is that really what you want?" And if that didn't happen, the video would never go viral, and that's exactly what he was chasing. So she pressed him hard. Did he really want to strike back at everyone who bullied him? But Kaba didn't stop there. He insisted there were other ways to get payback on them. If that's true, she's dying to know how he plans to pull off his revenge. As she watched, he looked completely lost, like he had no idea what to do next. He could switch tactics on the fly, but every new move would demand a price. Even so, he had no real options because the video was already in someone else's hands. This hit him like a truck, forcing him to finally face how brutal reality truly is. Revenge never comes without danger, so there's no way he could have moved on without knowing the risk. Disappointment slammed into him so hard it felt like the whole world quit on the spot, and the girl even felt for him, fully understanding his struggle. She snapped him back to the truth just the day before. He'd been seconds away from ending his own life. If he could even hold his ground on that ledge, then this whole mess wasn't worth freaking out about. Maybe you didn't have the nerve to carry out what he planned to do yesterday. Agitated, he snapped that he was dead set on seeing his plan through. The girl watched him with a sharp, satisfied grin. If he was truly determined, this whole mess would have been a piece of cake. She even went ahead and set up an account, and actually went out of their way to write that post just for him. All he had to do was slam the button and fire the content up to the world. The video description felt downright weird, and they'd put on an act, pretending they were bullying him. Like the person behind it was basically screaming a confession, openly admitting the crime he committed. That was the only kind of justice that hit like a fortress, solid, airtight, and finally on target for this cause. That one video would snatch the attention of everyone in the room. Since the account was brand new and had 0 followers, they slapped on viral hashtags and suddenly it was built to blow up and turn heads fast. His video of humiliation was going to light the internet on fire. And all that was left was to let society step in and mete out justice. Worried to his core, he couldn't shake the thought that this could explode into a whole chain of disasters for his school. The girl calmly hit him with the truth this school didn't care about him one bit. And yeah, he was the only one who could actually save himself. Why stress over adults who actually showed up to help him? And if he didn't pull this off, misery would swallow his whole life from that day on. And that was the last thing he ever wanted for his own future. She rushed in to soothe him, telling him, "It's fine, just follow my instructions. That's the only way you'd finally feel real happiness." And no matter what, she was always right there ready to fight for him and shield him from harm. Phone in hand, he paused for 1/10 second, then went ahead and hit post. With one single click, the video snaps right into the internet's spotlight. At first, he figured nobody had clocked what was going down. No one would even bat an eye because it was posted from some account with 0 followers. As the seconds ticked by, the reactions started flooding in. As soon as his post hit, the comments exploded and suddenly, follower after follower rushed in. And just like that, people erupted in outrage over the bully's cruel actions. The shock hit him so hard that he yanked his phone right off his hands and it splattered onto the floor. Behind him, the girl beamed and told him he'd absolutely nailed it. She snatched the phone off the floor and said, "That's it. We've done everything we can, now we just wait." So yeah, he had no choice but to book it back to class. Elsewhere, a terrified student sprinted up to the bully, clutching alarming news like it might explode. He had 0 clue what was going on, so his classmate shoved him toward the class crew. Evie couldn't believe her eyes at what she was seeing. He had no clue I'd pull this off, but it was just some random post online, nothing huge, right? Before long, everyone would move on and nobody would be able to track down their school anymore, even if they tried. Nobody would dare to show that there. A classmate strolled off and some weird stranger leaned in and dared them like, was nobody brave enough to stand up? You wouldn't think it by looking at him, but that dude was a streamer. He lived and breathed this exact kind of stuff. Still, the bully didn't get it at all. Didn't even realize there was a whole little corner on the internet for it. He didn't look like much, but somehow he racked up a whopping 5,000 followers. That jerk was genuinely blown away. That totally blew me away. That day, the kid was about to show up as a guest on one of his live streams. He still had 0 clue what was going on, but the guy grabbed him and told him to put it on. Feeling uneasy about the whole thing, he snapped and slapped the guy right across the face. He snapped his gaze to his phone and demanded, "Did anybody see that?" because the boy had just clocked him. He insisted it was an accident. Then the guy pressed him like, was that really the excuse he planned to hide behind? He leaned in and asked if that's also what he whispers to his victims, especially when he joins up with those thug jerks to torment helpless people. To save themselves, the boys blurted, "We were just fooling around." Again, he checks his phone and tells his audience, "That jerk fought," and everyone realizes it's just a joke. He blasted the guy as a trash piece, just more trash piled on trash, claiming he was the absolute worst. It's guys like him who poison the society they're trapped in. Because of all that, the guy claimed he'd been taught the lesson, and that's why he said it in class. Because he was such a total piece of trash. Judgment hit fast, and the guys immediately started giving the jerk a brutal beatdown. But Jerk slams into pain after getting hit and still has the nerve to demand, "Why are you beating me?" Bad luck right in the middle of the live stream. Everything turned blurry because he was too busy beating the jerk back while still clutching the camera. But then he leaned in and demanded, "Did you all see what just happened?" Some folks said decking the jerk went too far, but he fired back, claiming he never hit the boy. He even called the jerk out for wearing the channel's badge and said anyone who puts it on automatically agrees to be streamed. In the end, he snapped that it was all a stunt, and the jerk played his part so perfectly it was scary. Checking his phone, he told his viewers with total confidence no one was actually hurt. Viewers erupted into arguments, some defended him, insisting he only struck back because the church came after him first. Meanwhile, that piece of trash just keeps standing there in the background, stuck in place like it owns the scene. He had one final question lined up for that jerk. He couldn't shake the question, why in the world should he trust that kid? That jerk took forever to answer. He went all in on his move, driven by the real reason burning underneath it all. He still remembered watching that cable guy stride around with perfect posture. He thought, wow, Keeper is seriously the coolest guy alive. That's why he stormed right up to him. He strode right up to the boy and started a conversation. He told me he overheard a few girls whispering about Tiba. When he stepped in and started battling, Hibab's popularity was obvious. By snapping his attention away at the perfect moment, he threw off Kabata's step and sent him stumbling in dolled poop. It was brutal timing. Kaba looked like he was rocking your sneakers, and right then, two girls came marching over. First thing he blurted about Kaiva, he'd stepped straight in a pile of dog poop. The girls snapped at him to quit teasing Kiba because it wasn't even remotely funny. He said it felt like slipping on a banana peel, but the girls snapped back that that kind of humor fit him still. It was totally unfunny. No matter what, he insisted it was the best choice for Kiba, because now he had a hilarious tale ready to unleash. Cabell snapped, yanked the jerk's hand off his shoulder, and fired back, "That wasn't fun at all!" At first, that absolute jerk got totally tongue-tied. Kiba's stare made his skin crawl. Then he finally admitted the truth. He didn't want to beat Kaiba at all. He just wanted to be his friend. But the streamer wouldn't accept that excuse. He clapped back at the jerk for acting like the victim just to dodge all the judgment. He shoved his shoe right up to the jerk's face and wiped the front clean on it. Back at school, everyone leaned in to hear what went down because it looked like that jerk got jumped during lunch. The students spilled the full story, and before the rumor even cooled, the school called in the authorities. Turns out the culprit was already in custody. After getting beaten down, the jerk finally had to get medical help. That day, the teacher snapped everyone to go home early, and the whole class buzzed with talk about what that jerk got himself into. Kid Butt finally started to see it the moment everything that happened hit him all at once. To the girl beside him, this felt like a win carved right into his future. And just like that, they finally crushed their goal. From that moment on, the bullying stopped because everyone who could target him was finally gone. Kaiba wasn't convinced this was the move. He wrestled with the choice in his head the whole time they talked. The video kept exploding across the internet, spreading like wildfire. Honestly, sheer terror swallowed him whole. But that wasn't even the biggest thing hitting him. The girl pushed the idea skip school tomorrow and cancel that date plan instead. Totally spellbound, he couldn't wait to find out what the future had in store for him through her. He bolted back home, unable to stop his mind from replaying, about how she boldly suggested they go on a date. Because of that, you couldn't steal even a single minute of sleep. He couldn't stop wondering whether he'd even bothered to comb his hair on, only to feel his nerves start to spike. He looks like just an ordinary guy, but trust me, that's where the danger starts. But then that gorgeous girl grabbed the moment and chose to go out with him. She lit up the moment she saw him and couldn't stop asking why he was still in his school uniform. He told me his parents would clock him the second he left the house in anything but his school uniform, so he decided to slip into the bathroom and change there. She finally understood and told him he could change right now. But the second he stepped into the bathroom, he froze, completely clueless about what he was supposed to do. He felt pure, unshakable peace in that exact moment. He was dead sure Girdle had to be hiding something dangerous. But she was so drop-dead gorgeous that he, just like every other guy, couldn't resist falling for women like her. When you finally made it back to her, you caught a few guys sliding over trying to charm her. The second she clocks his keyboard coming in. She strode up to him, grinning, and said, "You took forever." The guy steps back, convinced she's got a boyfriend somewhere. Right after they were finally together, she leaned in and asked, "Can we go to the aquarium?" Only after stepping into her company did he finally realize what was really happening. Everything that beautiful hit him like a dream so unreal, it felt like he'd blink and it would vanish. The girl couldn't stop staring. Marine animals totally blew her away. And just stared, stunned by how massive that whale shark was. They burned the whole day there, snapping photo after photo, and then he leaned in, watching all kinds of wild animals up close. Even the dessert they ordered was so gorgeous it felt like it belonged in a spotlight. She slid into her seat at the table and fired off, "So, Kettle, are you actually having fun?" And he shot back that he was. It felt amazing to her, like he was handing her something she'd been craving. As soon as he sat down, he leaned in and demanded, "So why'd you drag me out on this date?" She said she did it for one reason alone: she had his future in her sights. At first, he couldn't wrap his head around how this little outing could possibly connect to his future. But she told him straight up someday he'd crave love and beg to go on real dates. And that day became his crash course, teaching him how to mold his behavior and show off like the kind of guy people actually want to listen to. He had to get some practice first. One wrong move and he'd totally botch his very first real date. So that day, just a warm-up, nothing more than practice. He leaned in, asked her out, and before the words even left his mouth, she snapped back, "No." She didn't just hint it, she flat out told him she didn't even like him that way. After everything, they barely even knew each other. And she made it crystal clear romance had zero interest for her. She just wanted one thing: keep playing with her puppets, over and over, like it was the whole world. She didn't love the spotlight. She yanked the strings behind the scenes, steering him straight toward a real, happy life. To her, he wasn't a person, just a puppet, nothing more, nothing less. They kept the good times rolling, soaking up every last second of the day. Snap after snap, laughing, posing, and soaking up every second like it was pure magic. Until the moment finally came when it was time to say goodbye. She thanked him for that perfect day, then leaned in and asked if he could really make it home on time. It wasn't even that late, so it wouldn't turn into a problem. And just like that, he knew she finally let go and said goodbye. She told me she turned those photos from that day into a whole album, which made Kiba's heart swell with gratitude. A buzzing vibration from his phone suddenly burst into the air like a warning. His father's voice tore through the air. The moment he spoke up, a storm of complaints hit him full force. His father had discovered he skipped school. Right after the teacher called him out, Kibut's face burned with humiliation. His father snapped that he shouldn't even bother coming home, then practically wished he'd die on the trip back. Only a truly despicable father would dare say something like that to his own child. That's exactly why he couldn't stand talking to his father. His mouth never once matched his brain, and he never cared what he was even saying. Realizing this was trouble, the girl shot him a worried look and asked, "Are you okay?" She quickly apologized, admitting it was all her fault because she'd made him skip school that day. But he didn't mind a bit. Getting accepted into that invitation felt worth every risk he knew was waiting. Curious, the girl leaned in and asked, "So you don't get along with your family, do you?" Honestly, their relationship was a total disaster. They couldn't even manage to meet each other's eyes. She swallowed the awkwardness, apologized, and insisted everyone should cherish their families while they still have them. She said he didn't have to do it. Seeing him, you could tell this whole mess was tearing him apart. No matter who they were, ordering someone to die always felt like cruelty at its core. If he didn't vibe with his family, she told him to run away before it crushed him. He could tag along with her if he really wanted to. But if she didn't even see him the way he hoped, then she had no right to say stuff like that. He couldn't just throw himself on her and call it trust. Unconditional love. She blurted it like it was the whole truth, and somehow it sounded even louder out of context. He didn't get it at first, so she leaned in and told him straight she had zero feelings for him, so she wanted nothing from him, not physically or romantically, no tricks, no hidden agenda. All she wanted was to save him, so she asked, "Isn't that enough?" His memory began to smear and fade, and he knew this was the day everything went down. Right on that exact day, his heart collided with hers and love hit like lightning. As he held the girl close, he couldn't deny it. He'd fallen hard for her. Then she leaned in and insisted they go back home because she had an idea burning in her head. Issued by some snacks from any convenience store and for a party. The girl leaned in and asked, "So do you like watching movies?" She rented movies every week, and shyly the boy finally confessed he loved them just as much. It bolted to the convenience store to grab exactly what they needed. Then something weird came up Kibble, straight in the middle of Tamata's situation. He poured out his gratitude for everything she'd done for him, but she brushed it off and insisted none of it was truly extraordinary. She told him straight up using her family name made it sound like strangers, so she wanted him to call her by her first name. She totally threw the boy off. He was blushing and flustered, and when she tried to get him to say her name, he just couldn't manage it. So he swallowed his pride and ended up apologizing to her. You even thank your sponsor while they're out shopping, because they somehow managed to snag a mountain of snacks for you. She jabbed a finger at the building and declared, "That's my home." He stared at the place and realized it was huge top-tier luxury, the kind rich people brag about. She yanked the door open and beckoned him in. "Man, this apartment is insanely spacious, seriously. Look how much room there is." He pressed her about her parents, and she snapped back that they weren't there. She was totally alone in that apartment, no roommates, no company, just her and the silence. She sank onto the sofa and asked him to stay right there, keeping her company. She asked if he had a favorite kind of movie, and the boy shrugged, saying anything was fine until he admitted there was one he'd been dying to watch, and she was ready too, because she'd heard it was seriously amazing. They locked in and agreed to binge that movie together. But two guys sprawled on the couch, glued to the screen as the film played. More Kiba sat in, staring at it all. Everything felt so calm it almost knocked the air out of the room. He fervently wished that exact moment would freeze in time and never let go. But then, right when he thought he was done, his phone started ringing again. It was his dad right there, like the final piece of the puzzle clicking into place. The girl shrugged it off and told him, "Go on, just answer it." He burst out the door, desperate to find out what his dad was really after. Still, he was his father, and deep down there was a real chance he was genuinely worried. The second Kiva picked up, a raging father's voice exploded through the line. He told him, "I'm at a friend's place and they let me sleep over for the night." Then his dad's anger flared even harder. He snapped at Keban to rush home right away. He was convinced Cabo was hiding at a girl's place, then snapped that boys his age didn't get away with being so maze, and swore he was already on his way to pick him up. That whole mess only cranked up Kiba's frustration because his dad still hadn't attacked. Kiba didn't want to go home either. He just kept pushing forward, refusing to stop. She swung the door open and shot him a worried look, asking if he was okay in A. She swallowed her pride and blurted out an apology because she'd overheard everything. She clocked that his dad always roared, and with him clearly upset, she figured Kiba should bail and head home fast. Then it hit her he didn't have to go anywhere because his dad promised he'd come pick him up. So they might as well hold their ground and wait for him to finally show up. His dad showed up way earlier than anyone guessed, and there he was, waiting right outside. He snapped, "Bring Kiba down right now," and swore he'd been tracking him the whole time through his phone's GPS. Finding out an app was spying on his phone lit a fresh fire of rage in Cuba. The girl demanded they head down, and Cabin spotted an envelope clutched in her hands. She promised she'd bulldoze his father into seeing the truth. Kiba didn't have to go home. Kiba was confused out of her mind, but she still grabbed him and told him to wait right there at the entrance. That was her command. He didn't dare defy her, not for a second. Without a shred of respect, his father snarled that she'd seduce his son like a tramp would. She even went as far as dressing like one. Inside his head, Kiba just knew this was going to crash and burn. Not knowing what his father could really pull off, he figured you should step outside too. The moment his father laid eyes on him, he declared that Kibble was going home with him. Then the girl thrust the envelope into the man's hands like she was handing over fate itself. It was stuffed with cash, and she'd saved every last bit for emergencies exactly like this. She grabbed his attention, told him to take the money, and then get out while Kiba went with her. Totally clueless about what was going on, Kedva figured it had to be some kind of prank. She snapped that if 1 million wasn't enough, then it wasn't an ask, it was a joke. If he was the kind of father no mother would ever abandon her child for, especially not just because some dirty money was involved. He claimed she only got that money by selling her body because in his eyes, she looked like a slut. And Kiba begged his father to stop right there, before it got any worse. She urged him to ditch the same old idea and look at new options, investments included, but But he probably figured that the only way a woman could score real money was through tricks like that. He was painfully unoriginal, just a sad, pathetic excuse of a man. With that man as her father, Kippa never stood a chance at a truly happy life. Irritation flared as he snapped that it wasn't her place to decide that. But the girl couldn't hold it in, she needed to ask him something. So why did he look his own son in the eye and tell him to die? The man swore he did it for his own good, like that excuse could somehow make everything okay. Back when he was his son's age, his bosses barked the same truth at him. Weak people don't belong in this world. They pushed him hard so he'd learn to live by it too. The moment she heard it, the girl burst into laughter. He just couldn't get what was so funny, and she hit him with, "That story is ridiculously, totally absurd." It basically proved he couldn't care less about his son, honestly. He probably didn't care about the kid at all. She pressed him anyway, asking what he'd do if his boy actually died. The man just said, "People don't drop dead because someone orders it." Against what he believed, they did it no questions asked, and they pulled it off with shocking ease. It hits way harder when the one saying it is their own parent. But there's no way he can't feel his son's pain because he's been through it, just like him, since the day he kept his father. Still stunned, the man insisted he had no idea what the boy had been feeling. Still, he snapped, calling him a coward, and said that's exactly why he was forcing him to become a man. She snapped that he'd gotten the whole thing wrong and that words alone never counted as real education. After she talked to him, the whole truth snapped into place in her mind. Kiva's happiness didn't need that guy at all. She's the reason his happiness would finally light up for good. Rage kept swelling in him as he snapped that she knew nothing and then accused her of trying to marry his son. A peaceful family where you can raise a child right, that's the very first step to a truly happy life, she explained. And to make sure he got that future, she promised she'd help Tidal skyrocket his fame, boosting his brains, racking up wins, and stacking up more achievements along the way. But she wouldn't be the one to build a family with him, she'd just be his control tower, calling the shots from above. From that day on, she decided she'd prove every single day that Kiva could be happy, as long as he was under her control. That outrageous claim hit them like a punch, and both of them froze, lost in hard, intense thought. To him, it was nothing but a joke because she was just a kid. If she can really do it, then prove it to him right now. She snatched her phone and flat out said she wasn't wasting another second. She leaned in and started telling her father about that earlier thing they'd been talking about. She demanded it be done right now, then slammed the call shut. He had no clue what was going on until his own phone started ringing for him. Was the company president ready to be blindsided? And the girl snapped that he needed to answer right now like it couldn't wait another second. He picked up, and the voice on the other end immediately blurted out an apology for the sudden call. They shout their thanks for everything he's done. They said it was the price they had to pay, let him go, and hit him with an apology for the call they made. They told him to drop the grudge because they had a family to feed and nowhere else to turn. When the call cut out, he demanded, "Was this her doing?" And the answer was a clear, unmistakable yes. She told him she'd begged her father to handle it for her and to make sure he knew the Tamata Real Estate Group inside out. He knew exactly who they were because that company had already swallowed the business he worked for. And right there, that company was run by her father, fully in control. So the girl just turned to her dad and demanded he fire him. This snapped her right back to the very first offer she'd ever thrown his way. She wouldn't hesitate to march straight to her father and demand he bring him back. But if he kept resisting, she'd make sure no one hired him anywhere else. Frustration bubbled up as he snapped that she was just messing around. But she smirked and swore it wasn't a bluff now the ball was in his court. But here's the brutal truth: he'd been fired, plain and simple. By the time you're a grown man, you should already know the right choice. The man crumpled to the floor, crushed by disappointment because there was truly nothing else he could do. The girl thrust the envelope at him, and he snatched it out of the air, pure fury blazing in his eyes. Looks like he called it right after all. With a quick turn back to keep out, she declared that she'd cleared the obstacle blocking his way. Now they could finally kick back and watch the movie in peace. She yanked his arm and dragged him forward, faster, faster, no time to waste. Cuba stumbled back into the apartment, still shaking with disbelief at what just happened. In the principal's office, the boy blurted that he only did it because the girl wouldn't let him. Now they're demanding to know what kind of bond Keppa has with her. So he didn't waste another second spiraling. He marched straight up to the boy and asked him himself, Now they were back in the apartment, and the movie night was finally back on track time to smash through the rest of the film. If she hadn't done that, he wouldn't be stuck dealing with his father ever again. A massive weight finally slid off his shoulders, and the relief hit like a wave. Still, he couldn't shake the nagging doubt, what if this was the wrong move? He was still a minor, and running off from home was a terrible idea. Yet he still felt her kindness hit his heart hard, relieved to finally have somewhere safe to stay. But he couldn't shake the fear that everything would fall apart, especially after he severed ties with everyone he'd ever known. Those folks were still his family, and it lit a fire in his mind. What would his mother say the moment she found out? She'd probably stay quiet because she always trailed behind his father like clockwork. As the girl locked eyes with him, she noticed his mind was miles away, and she blurted out, "Hey, is something wrong?" She just had to know, was he freaking out over what went down? If that was really true, he wouldn't be judging him at all. He'd only just been ripped away from his family. Still, she leaned in and promised him, everything's going to be okay. She vowed she'd make him happy and swore it would happen no matter what. Tiba couldn't stand it. She just had to figure out why she kept acting like that all the time. The moody vibes shut off the second she said it had been a lot of fun. The Unkeba nodded and agreed because that story had hit him so hard it left him genuinely moved. The last scene was awesome, but the girl couldn't shake the feeling that it was sliding straight into cliché. She pitched another movie for them to watch next, and he literally couldn't wrap his head around the fact they were about to jump into a second film. She figured he didn't want it until he finally cracked and admitted he'd actually be thrilled to. They wound up binging a romance movie because when you're on a home date, that's the classic move. She told him, straight up, that all of this was just training for what was coming next. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something like that could ever happen to him. So for now, she just wanted them to dive into the movie and have a good time. Normally, he never went for films like this, and now his nerves were buzzing like crazy. Then a steamy kissing scene hit the screen, and it dragged on way longer than he ever thought it would. The whole moment cringed his soul, then the girl reached out and brushed his hand. In moments like this, she blurted it out right then. You've got to hold the hand of the person who's washing right next to you. Then she blew everyone away by showing exactly how it's done. With their faces right there, she leaned in and dared him to kiss her too. But that was more than he could handle. And he slammed the idea down, saying they'd never be allowed to do it under any circumstances. She couldn't stop wondering if he was holding back from kissing her. But the truth hit hard, he absolutely wanted to, and that's why she pushed for them to go for it. She wasn't about to hand him anything, so she shot back that was exactly why they definitely shouldn't kiss. He leaned in and told her she deserved way more self-respect than that. And the girl shrugged like, "What, you're just spitting nonsense." She told him she didn't mind kissing him, and then he snapped back, "That's exactly the problem. They'd set their expectations and hope for the best, and she can't just do that to someone she just turned down." She found it weird because he'd never once confessed to her. Then he hit her with it at the aquarium. She'd told him she didn't like him. He told her he was just defying her rules in the relationship, and that snapped through him, left him totally baffled until she finally realized that's why he'd been feeling like he'd been rejected. Sometimes that girl drove him absolutely insane. And listen, if you're really together, you don't go around kissing like it's nothing. Even if she wanted him smiling, she should have kept at least a little backbone and some morals. Since that's how he stood, she snapped that she wouldn't kiss him again. But even with the future looming, she couldn't help hoping he'd get some real romantic experience. Hearing that, the boy froze, no words could escape him. Then she leaned in and said, "Tomorrow at school, let's go find him a girlfriend." Once they were there, she pushed them to cut the small talk and get straight to the point. He needed to shatter his own romantic comedy right there and then. She pressed him, asking if there was some girl he had feelings for, and the only answer that instantly hit his mind was that it had to be her. He didn't spill that secret, he just shrugged and said he had no one in mind after being bullied for ages. He never got the chance to make friends, much less catch real feelings, and hearing that, she finally saw they had a real starting point. Kiba shot back, "It's not that simple." But she leaned in and told him, "Don't you worry." His face wasn't a turn-off at all, so it was only a countdown before he closed the distance on that girl. He didn't know if that was meant to flatter him or just set him up, so she demanded he look in that exact direction. The girl wiped the blackboard, but you could tell she was fighting just to keep it under control. She pleaded for him to help her, like if he jumped in now, he'd finally earn the role of her hero. He did this twisted stuff only because someone ordered him, like they were trying to make him feel completely off. Still, he strode right up to her, checked on her fast, and asked if she was okay and needed help. At the very end, he wiped the board clean for her. When the job was finally done, she thanked him with pure, overflowing joy. He grinned and said, "Seriously, it was no big deal at all, and if she ever needed him again, she'd just turn to him and ask." The other girl beamed and told him he'd done great, like popularity was just a matter of tying off the last knot, yet he shot back, "It's not that easy." But she snapped that he was wrong, being kind mattered more than he realized, and people kept brushing it off like it didn't count. While everyone was busy trying to flirt, they totally missed the quiet power of kindness. And by the look on the girl's face, she definitely felt grateful for that tiny gesture. At least that's what she told me, like it was the whole truth. But he couldn't figure out what she meant when she told him to write his own romantic comedy. While he scrubbed the hallway floor, someone shouted his name and stopped him dead. It was the very girl he'd helped earlier. She came right up to him and thanked him again for everything he'd done. While he finally caught his breath, she reminded him he'd helped wipe down the blackboard. Kata shrugged and said it was totally no big deal. She didn't have to drag herself all the way here just to thank him, but she refused to back down because there was something burning to come out, even if it felt a little too sudden. The girl choked on her words and couldn't keep going. Pure embarrassment swallowed her whole. She ended up blurting out an apology, admitting she'd accidentally bitten her own tongue. What she was dying to ask was whether he'd walk her home. That shock hit him because suddenly he understood it was going to be just the two of them. She leaned in and told him, "Don't take it the wrong way." He just needed a quick hit of donuts because a brand new shop had popped up right by the station, and she had no friends at all to go with her, so she admitted she was painfully shy. Earlier, Kaba told her, "If you need help, don't hesitate to ask," and it was like a lifeline thrown straight to her. Tears spilled down her face as she begged for mercy, and when she asked him to desilence, it was a flat refusal. But he leaned in, swore it wouldn't, and promised he'd happily go with her. She beamed at him and told him, "Meet me after school." As she pulled away from tomatoes, he somehow snagged a deed right after school. But there was no way he could ever admit he was living with another girl. Yeah, there's no way he'd say that out loud. He just had zero clue how to deal with what was happening. It felt like he'd been trapped in a fake love triangle, like the whole romance was rigged from the start. What he did hammered him with guilt. Then it hit him. Tamata didn't have a single ounce of feelings for him, and he pushed himself to let her go right away. He had no clue what the future was about to throw at him. But he knew he had to break out of his shell, make real friends, and throw his horizons wide open. Before that, it was basically impossible because the bullying was brutal and relentless. At last, he could finally sink into everything life was throwing at him. Even after the date started, the girl leaned in with one last request for him. She couldn't wait. She wanted every last detail straight from his mouth. She shoved a pen into his hands, one that looked like it belonged to the skies themselves. He also had to wear real earphones that were secretly listening devices so she could feed him the exact words he was supposed to say. "So you'll be able to follow her directions no matter how far apart you two are." She was so heartbroken that she couldn't even crack a smile through it. As she bid him goodbye, she pressed her luck-stamped wish into his hands. May he conquer his gate. That crushing weight slammed onto his shoulders like it was trying to break him. Right in the middle of his thoughts, someone shouted his name and snapped his attention instantly. It was the girl he was about to date, and she asked if he'd been waiting forever. He shot back that he hadn't. Then they ditched school and sprinted straight for the station. Keepto had a listening device locked in, with earphones jammed in tight, ready to catch every sound. It felt way too weird for him to ignore. Tamata leaned in, asking if he could actually hear her through those earphones. If he could, he'd tap his ear twice. And chances are he did. Now he's got to lock in, listen to every word she says, and repeat it back one by one. He had to start right away, following her orders, and he could only assume she was messing with him. Could have leaned in and asked the girl straight up if she loved donuts. She said yes, and straight from her answer, he blurted that he loved that same sweet kind of treat too. He kept repeating himself, and the embarrassment hit so hard it felt like he was seconds away from dying. At last, they finally crashed into the exact spot she'd been talking about. She kept steering him forward, and he finally confessed this was his very first time ever being here. This wasn't one of the stores he ever dared to step into. He stared at the pile of food and said every single item looked ridiculously delicious, but the sheer number of choices was making his head spin. She said she'd gladly try every single one, but then admitted 2 donuts would be too much for her to handle by herself. He told her he understood exactly how she felt then. Through his earpiece, he suddenly caught a voice urging him to propose they split the same donut. He stared at the girl and took the suggestion, guessing that her sudden silence meant she might not be up for it. But she shrugged and said it was fine as long as it was with him. That was awesome, now they're ready to put in their order. He told her, "Don't stress, since you're already getting the donut upgrade, you'll also get a drink with it too." She couldn't stop herself from thinking, wow, he's seriously kind, like pure thoughtfulness. He came back to the table with their order, and the donuts looked so ridiculously good I could have sworn they were calling my name. She thanked him with real warmth, then offered him money to cover her share of the order. He was told to shut down the cash and, on top of that, give them a warning about what it meant. He told her, "Don't worry about the cost," like it was nothing, just another bold little kindness straight from him. But the girl snapped that she'd feel awful if he didn't pay, then the order came, take her hands and say something else. He leaned in, told her he was determined to play the gentleman this time, and asked her to let him have it. With a shaky breath, she said, "It's fine, really," even though it clearly wasn't. After everything, she leaned in and asked if there was a girl like a real cable-like one. Tamada couldn't stop grinning at how fast things were moving, and he even admitted there wasn't a single person he had a crush on right now. "That was amazing," she said, "because if you really loved someone, you'd have to kill them." What she said wasn't just absurd, this girl was straight up unhinged. She grinned and blurted, "Relax, I was just joking." Rattling the words from his earpiece, he leaned in and told her, "You're intense, no doubt about it," and nearly ripped the guy's soul straight out with a heart attack. Then the girl leaned in, like she had a question burning a hole in her heart for him. She pointed out that the words he spits out can feel like they're coming straight from his own mouth. She just had to know why he was wearing an earpiece in his ear. Then it was time to rip the device off, and Tomato finally realized she couldn't do a thing to help anymore. He told her that before he ever met her, he'd been blasting music, and even now, for Doc, he was still playing it. Those words didn't even land, she knew he still wasn't telling her the full truth. A sudden mood flip hit her like a shock, and her nerves suddenly went haywire. The girl burst into tears, convinced he didn't care about her anymore at all. Kiba rushed in, swearing that she was wrong and that it wasn't true. She said it was fine because she honestly believed a guy like him would never even notice someone like her, and she rushed out an apology like, "You must just want to go home now." He leaned in and told her straight up that she had it all wrong. His feelings didn't match that at all. Honestly, he couldn't stop smiling. Talking to her felt amazing. He leaned in and asked, "So are you still down for more dates with me?" She told me she wanted to keep talking, and once we finished there, she couldn't stop wondering if he'd be down to come over to her place. Kebble blinked in surprise at the proposal, thinking you might have been trying to say no. You were stuck because if you went with her, you'd leave Tamada hanging. And he refused to leave the girl alone while she was in this emotional wreck. He agreed to go with her, and instantly regretted it because now Tomato was going to be left waiting. The deal was simple, he couldn't stay alone at her place. Right after stepping in, he leaned forward and demanded permission to enter. He asked if she lived by herself, and she shot back, "Yeah, I do." Her parents were swamped with life, but they still scraped together money and sent it so she could stand on her own. Shaken told everyone she was overflowing with gratitude for the parents who gave her everything. She told him to get comfortable while she set out to brew some tea. Kiba stepped in and offered to help with anything, totally clueless about the chaos she was about to unleash. She smashed a vase into his head with bone-crushing brutality. He had no choice left. He crumpled to the ground as his blood poured out in a violent rush. Then she leaned in and promised, "Just for a second, I'm borrowing your phone." She'd felt it in her gut he'd been lying to her the entire time. She checked his messages and realized he'd been secretly chatting up another girl. He'd soak in a tough little lesson, and she'd step in too, doing it for the other girl's sake as well. Tamada was already there, grinning as he insisted this girl was even more interesting than he'd first imagined. His consciousness starts to slip away slow, brutal, and unstoppable. When he woke up, his whole body was yanked into ropes completely tied up tight. Above him, that wild girl was standing there in nothing but her underwear, grinning like crazy because he'd finally woken up. He started to sweat with nerves, totally clueless why she was nearly naked. She said she couldn't stand sitting there in blood-soaked clothes, so she tore them off right then and there. That sent his nerves into overdrive, because she promised she'd start punishing him immediately. She swore he acted sweet to that other girl just to toy with her heart so deep, so cruel, she'd never forgive him. He insisted that was never what he wanted ever, and he pressed her, Wait, who's the girl you're talking about? She leaned in and told him she meant Arijara Rio. But then she drops her name, and it hits him. This girl is absolutely unhinged, talking about herself like she's someone else. She leaned in and told them the truth. She wasn't just some random girl. She was the older sister, and her name was Rena. To him, it felt downright eerie because they looked exactly the same. She said it was exactly what they were supposed to be because they were sharing the same body. She fired the question at him. Have you ever heard the term split personality? Turns out this whole idea was brand new to him. Lately, her parents barely seemed around. But that wasn't how it used to be. They used to beat her for any excuse, then slam her in a garden shed and leave her there. The girl would throw herself at them, begging to be let out. She sobbed and begged her father to unlock the door, shaking with pure terror. But the louder she shrieked, the more terror clawed at her, yet still nothing happened. In that crushing darkness, she clung to one desperate hope: someone please save her. And right then this second personality burst out like it had been waiting in the shadows, so she would feel every last bit of pain. She had to borrow the girl's body to make it work. She swore on her soul that she'd stand between danger and the ones she loved. And that's how she was born, made to protect Rio, with the right to smile and be happy too. That's why she can't stand guys like him. He plays with her heart like it's nothing. And now he's about to pay for every single thing he did. She decided to kick things off by staring straight into his eyes. She lunged in, ready to slice up his pretty little face with the razor edge of her blade. She couldn't wait to start slicing, then she held his face in the grip of her plan. Desperate, he begged them to talk things through, but she'd already crossed the line where conversation was impossible. He scrambled to explain what he was really trying to do with her, but right when she was about to speak, the doorbell ripped through the silence. Someone was outside. That crazy girl snapped that she'd shut her door to whoever it was. But she couldn't touch her work at all. The relentless running kept yanking her away every single time. Even the doorknob wouldn't stop rattling, and she couldn't shake the feeling this was some kind of prank. That sound was way too suspicious. He wasn't just turning the doorknob, he was ramming it like he meant to break in. When the door finally swung open, Kamada locked eyes on what was happening, this time for real. Cabell was strapped down tight, and some wild lunatic was on top of him, grinning like a nightmare. For her, opening that door wasn't hard at all. She'd already lined up a whole arsenal of tricks. Now she already knew exactly what to do there. She said what she was seeing was absolutely revolting. Kiba scrambled to explain it wasn't what she thought, but he was panicking hard. He needed help, and he needed it right now. She snapped back that it all happened only because he refused to listen to her. That crazy girl finally clicked. The voice on the other end was the very girl she knew, and when she confirmed it, she snapped that she'd kill her too. Tamada shot back with a quick apology, insisting she never meant to rattle anyone in the first place. She just wanted Kiba to finally feel what true love is really like. That statement left the crazy girl flustered and baffled because it just didn't add up. She snapped that it had to be a lie. No one would shove advice into his ear unless they needed to control him. Then Kamada stepped in and said she'd misread everything. All she'd ever done was give him instructions. She snapped out the instructions, and he obeyed every single one without hesitation. Because in the end, Kaiba had handed her his life and trusted her with everything. And yeah, he'd even tell you exactly what shoes he was about to wear. From this moment on, every decision he makes is hers to control. And in the end, he would finally land a happy life. She leaned in and asked that wild girl if she didn't think it was absolutely wonderful. Keeping a night vigil over the boy she'd tied up in her house, that wild girl ranted that everything she'd heard didn't add up, then declared that Tomato was downright insane. But she won't call herself crazy. She's dead serious about every word she's spoken. With a knife clutched in her hand, that wild woman snarled at them, "Don't you dare mess with me!" She charged at Tamada with zero hesitation, insisting that Rito isn't some toy you get to mess with. Someone stepped in with an idea she should comb her hair down a little to get control of the situation. That wild woman claimed she was totally calm, then snapped and ordered the tomato to shut up. They didn't even give it a lot of time before it hit them. This person's got a severe personality disorder. They warned that Rideau could end up crushed by what she'd done because if she killed that boy, she'd be a murderer with no clue what she'd just erased. After she said that, the crazy woman's eyes instantly turned thoughtful, like her mind had started racing with worries. That one perfect distraction gave him exactly what he needed to snatch the knife right for her hands. With the weapon gone, she clamped both hands around the girl's head. Without warning, she leaned in and kissed him. She pitched the idea that they could all end up truly happy together. so she'll steer all of them straight into happiness. Rio can't even believe this could be real, but Tamada assures her she can absolutely pull it off. She admits the girl's life has been brutal up to this point, but now everything's about to change. She'll finally get to enjoy it, for real. The girl has absolutely no clue how she'll ever feel happy, so they huddle up and brainstorm solutions, one wild idea after another. I finally came to one fast conclusion: she has no idea how any of this is even going to work. Happiness doesn't come in one shape, it shows up a dozen different ways. Building a family, sinking your soul into a hobby, chasing a career, each person defines happiness in their own way. So many choices are on the table, and she's the one who'll stand beside her and help her pick the right path. Then she leaned in and asked, "So do you want to be my puppet too?" But the things she'd heard so far made absolutely no sense. None of it added up. Honestly, she sounds totally unhinged, because what she's doing makes zero rational sense. In her head, she somehow just gets it like the truth clicks into place. She just can't wrap her head around why those words feel so dangerously seductive. Every part of her is screaming at her not to turn this chance down. She's begging to be obeyed, handing over every last decision of her life to this girl's control. Finally, it clicks in her head too, because the exact same thing happened with Kebab. She said that proposal sounded so utterly insane it made no sense at all. Still, she decided to follow the girl's orders. And just like that, they finally made their peace and everything between them was sealed. Now she had one simple command to follow. She was ordered to check the boy tied to the bed. Because every fairy tale ends the same way: the prince and princess lock lips and ride off into a forever after. And if she chooses to follow the order, she's about to pour every ounce of intensity romance can offer straight into her experience. Every inch of this exotic girl head to toe screams pure intrigue. She doesn't just lead, she was born with command in her veins. The moment she followed orders, praise hit her like a reward, and for the next mission, they decided to punish the boy and force his help. Tiba has zero clue why this is happening because he swears he's done nothing to deserve this kind of punishment. Desperate now, he can't stop thinking, what on earth did he do to deserve this? Then she said he ended the call without asking, like he had no right to do it. Kiba and he scrambled to explain themselves. But it's no sweat, she'll make him look even more unstoppable, even though the process can hurt like hell. Now she's going to drive a blade straight through his voice. He can't even process what's about to hit. She's telling him right now to stop pulling his tongue back. Desperate, he can't stop wondering how she's about to pierce his tongue. So she begged for help and told Rina to rip open the package for her. Kiba's terror keeps spiking as the truth hits him. He realizes the instruments are going to be sterilized for real, and that's about to happen. And the needle she's about to use is absolutely gigantic. She snapped, "Don't move, remember, you're my puppet." Every time he dares to disobey her, she metes out the punishment. But there's nothing to fear, he just needs to let it happen. Act like he's a little baby and let everyone else step in to take care of him. With a grinding calm, she starts to drive the blade deeper into his tongue. She said the needle was nearly all the way through. At last, she drove a needle straight into his tongue. Seaver keeps shaking, fighting the tears because his tongue is screaming in pain. So much blood spilled out that she practically demanded Rihanna grab a towel right now. Rita snapped the item into his hands, then hung on his every word, desperate to know if Tamada had confirmed the boy was safe and that nothing bad would go down. She isn't trying to kill him or pull anything that dark, but she made it crystal clear every time he disobeys her, this is what always happens. Because disobedient puppets don't learn until they're punished. That girl looming over him, she's got demon written all over her. After that tense moment, she pulled him close and cradled him gently in her lap. She told him he'd done amazing, he'd survived that pain like a champ, and then she kept stroking him, soothing him like he was still just a kid. His punishment was already over. While it's happening, you'll sit there and act perfectly good. Because of all that, someone would lean in and give him a soft, reassuring pat on the head. To her, the two of them are unbelievably adorable. She's basically helpless, and every push toward adoring them just makes it worse. That's why she prays for one thing above all: no walls between them, not even a single barrier. She leaned in and asked, "So do you know what everyone is absolutely obsessed with?" Because she's convinced that's what love feels like. Love doesn't just hit, it hijacks minds, turning people into unstoppable, obsessive wrecks. That's what love rips into the human heart and changes it forever. And so they became completely unstoppable. No one could ever replace them. They need to team up and pull off something absolutely unhinged together. Kiba didn't see the proposal coming at all, and it hit him like a shock. But she knows it's the one thing he's been craving more than anything. So they better get ready because it's time to start doing it for real. She started undressing right in front of him. They basically told us, no, we can't do that, it wouldn't be ethical. That's exactly why they're pushing for it to make sure they matter, and it hits with every word. Once they spill a secret like that, they're bound to forge a special connection that only grows closer, since they were already her special favorites. She wants to be just as special to them, too. She pushed the idea that they should lay it all out and let a real love triangle unfold with zero lies. So she asks him, when I hold you like this, don't you feel comforted? When he's bumped, the body blasts out stress-battling hormones that help him push through anxiety. She grabbed Rina's attention and told her to come join him too. And she likely snapped back, yeah, that works. The three ended up sprawled on the exact same bed, right there together. Riv's heart slammed against his ribs, going wild while Rina gasped as her touch lit him up with a warm, burning feeling. It'd be way warmer if they were naked. The moment that hint hit his mind, it snapped something in him and turned his world into pure, frantic madness. Tamada couldn't stop wondering had he ever seen people doing more than just talking, and he got hit with the same question as this exact moment suddenly turned into that topic. She didn't care whether he'd seen it online, she wanted to know what happened in real life. He'd never seen a thing. Then he shoved the whole topic out of his mind like it was dangerous. She can't wait to see it right now today. She pushed the idea right then and there like, let's do it now. Their secret shared between them would be the perfect fit. She warned him, plain and blunt, don't you dare say they can't do it. But if he's really into her, then deep down he's already craving that moment. She begged him not to let her down, and Mina swore she could pull it off too. That boy could only hope she'd stop and wait just a little longer. But before he could even blink, he was already pinning him down. In his head, doubt snapped at him, was this really the right move? No way this wasn't supposed to happen at all, not while his move was still about to happen. A man yanked the apartment door open. Rihanna had zero clue who this person even was. Tomedic greeted him like it was nothing because, yes, he was her father. Rage boiled in his veins as he demanded to know what was happening there. He told her to start talking, but Tamada pushed back. He wanted to know how he'd found this place in the first place. And that hesitation hit him hard. He couldn't bring himself to answer her. He told her he'd spent years tracking locations, something his daughter absolutely tore apart and rejected with full force. Still, he couldn't let it go. He had to break down exactly what was happening. With a daring grin, she pressed him to say what he thought was really going on there. A boy and a girl were curled up together in the very same bed. He needs to spell out what's going on just by the way he looks. Worry started to claw at him, and he snapped that she couldn't pull this off, scooped her up in his arms and lifted her off the ground. Because she wasn't married yet, she had no business crossing that line. And he had to know, was this the Kibo she'd been talking about, and were they really dating? Before she even answered, she begged her father to calm down because she was so damn composed that he couldn't wrap his head around it. All she wanted was to see him smile like nothing was wrong, like every worry was gone for good. With a knot in his chest, he demanded to know whether the boy had forced her to do it. And Kiba snapped, I'll never do something like that. If he's wrong, the young ones had better start talking it out fast. But there wasn't really anything left for them to spell out. Kiba snapped back that they couldn't, and even as he said it, he was quick as lightning. With a quick hand to his head, he realized he had to slow his mind down before things got worse. He'd catch up with his daughter later and finally talk it out. Kibo couldn't believe it. Tamada's father actually managed to impress him, because he was way younger than anyone ever expected, and he charged straight toward Kiba. He said, all right, it's already creepy time, come on, I'm taking you home. But Tamada had a bombshell to drop about it. The boy was staying in her house right under her roof. Learning it that way stunned her father into total silence. Smiling, he leaned in and told his daughter to give Kaba a private moment with him, which she definitely let happen. Now they're about to hop into a tiny car and ride together side by side. Out of every scenario imaginable, this one turns out to be an absolute mess, complicated from the first second to the last. And just like that, the car roars to life and starts rolling. And the man finally throws on the kabuk. He says he's about to fire off a few questions, and Kibuk better think long and hard before he answers, because everything hangs on what he answers. He shoots a warning that he might crack at any moment and lose his composure. Rage is flooding his chest, so he slams the gas harder than he ever should. He swears he's ready to slam the car straight into a pole, ending both of them. So Keeper needs to come clean and answer honestly about his relationship with his daughter. The road stretches straight ahead for a while, like it's daring him to keep going. But right up ahead, a brutal curve hugs the cliff edge. If this kid doesn't want to die right now, he'd better tell the truth. No games, no lies. He didn't even hesitate to ask if he and his daughter were dating. Then Kiba shot back, "Nope." Hearing that, he instantly figures their bond is nothing but physical. But Kiba totally shuts that down too. The boy hesitates for a split second, and the man pounces with the question, "Did you two ever get intimate?" Keeper insists they've done nothing at all, but admits they've already kissed. After that hits, the man goes stone still. He demanded an answer again, right as Kid Bob begged him to keep his eyes on the road. Rage burns through him as he growls that he's going to kill a boy. Kibby tells her, "Yeah, we kissed, but I swear I didn't drain the life out of it." To her father, these are nothing but excuses, mere words with no meaning. Kiva's words aren't an excuse at all. And yeah, she's the one who hauled him out of death and saved his life. If it weren't for her, he would have met death. That's why he treats her with respect, and why he can't help wishing she'd start believing in herself too. Because he's convinced she's the kind of person who can pull anyone out of any nightmare, no matter what's happening. She might look totally unhinged, but she can flip everything on its head, and that's exactly why she's able to pull off what she does. And he's determined to make her the happiest person alive. Once you're done, you erupt into screams because the car is about to slam straight into the guardrail. With the speed screaming, the car smashed through the barrier like it wasn't even there. As the world dropped out from under them, Kaiba felt his body drift weightless, and everything around him stretched into slow motion. He'd turned into a spectator of his own life, watching everything unfold like it wasn't even his. He'd thrown everything he had at the world just to protect her. He suddenly flashed back to those wild, younger days from his past. At a ridiculously young age, he landed the company president's secretary job, and everyone whispered it had less to do with skill and more to do with the president's sweet spot for him. People whispered that whenever he finally got a break, he was the one babysitting the president's daughter. Him and her still just a kid, and Cooper were absolutely over the moon to finally meet. The moment he laid eyes on her, he figured she was just another kid like any other. She already knew her father had told him to look after her and to apologize for stealing his precious free time. She told him, "Don't worry about me, I'm staying in my room and I'm not coming out." Even though her voice sounded grown up, this girl was unbelievably polite. Trying to break the ice, you tell him, "Hey, you'd like to play with her, right?" She flashed a smile and swore that a man was lying. She shrugged it off and said politeness wasn't necessary. I totally caught him off guard, because she handled it like a grown-up, no hesitation, just pure control. Still, she was just a kid, so yeah, it was totally fine if she leaned into her own wants for once. That's exactly how children are meant to act, so after she hears it, she pushes the victim to just play along and join in. Without wasting a second, she dove into a card game with him. But the man was panicked because they were still trapped inside the house. Because he'd basically snapped that kids should be a little selfish. She swore she'd keep going, no stopping, until they finally caught her. Before long, he tracked down my catcher. He said she was overflowing with energy like any kid, totally unstoppable. In his arms, she shot him a question: was she childish enough? That flipped a switch in his head, and suddenly he couldn't stop thinking about it. She was like nothing else, completely different from every other kid in the room. The young woman shot him an apology, even though she'd called him out of nowhere and right on the spot. She was totally into him and couldn't stop wondering would he actually go out with her. That lit him up with joy, but even so, he understood her feelings and still flat out refused her invitation. Because the woman pulling him in had a husband already waiting at home. With tears streaming down her face, she confessed her relationship was in total shambles because he was one of the few who had ever treated her right, and she truly believed he'd accept her. But no matter what, cheating is still wrong, and she has to face it with her husband head on. She steadies her breath, puts herself back together piece by piece, and realizes this advice is actually spot on. She threw an apology at him, admitting she let her emotions rip the steering wheel out of her hands. That realization lit a spark of gratitude in him because she understood it was impossible. And since he was still young, he'd never been able to refuse people like her. She stormed up to him again and spat, "You're despicable!" Even after she filed for divorce, things still didn't feel right, so he told her to calm down, and she snapped that she'd go out with him only if he actually divorced her. But he'd never once said anything like that. She broke down even harder, saying she'd gone through with the divorce because of everything he'd said. He should have shut her down from the very beginning, but now he's trapped in a situation that's spiraling into something way worse. And he can't walk away from her because he's terrified of what could happen if he does. Maybe she's doomed to stay single for the rest of her life. Once he spots that weakness and realizes he can't detach from the one person who matters, that's his biggest downfall. He understands this better than anyone could ever dream of. A man lunged into his space and demanded, "So tell me, did that rumor really turn out to be true? Tell the boss right away honestly, you should be the one to do it." At the office, everything's exploding at once. Coworker romance ignites, and right on top of it all, a serious problem rears its head. But to the boss, none of that even matters. Doesn't matter if they're accusing him of something deadly serious. He lives and breathes for his employees' work, nothing else matters. He couldn't rest until he found out his colleague's name. Outside, he kept moving until he caught voices drifting on the air. "So that's your key, and the crime woman just got fired. Something had to go down. There's no way she'd get shut out that fast. Yeah, she was totally over the top, but she'd already had a workplace affair back in the day. And honestly, she's nothing but pure trouble." Takem was right because the president's call proved one thing: they'd pinned the blame on him unfairly. Even if we can't prove firing her was the perfect call, it's still a huge win because the president is clearly in her corner. But that favor ends right there. Your boss doesn't care how you feel, only whether the work gets done. Meanwhile, the kid shouts his name and calls him over. She's desperate to find out if he's really okay. He looks kinda crushed, and she can't help but wonder what happened. The only soul who truly cares about him is this tiny little girl, and just as that thought starts to click in his mind, he spotted a fresh mark on her arm. She blurted out that she'd been a terrible kid and that it was all her fault. But Kubaro's silence started to scare him to death. So they demanded to know how she ended up with that bruise on her arm. She swore it started the day her dad snapped in full rage and slammed a shoe into her. He couldn't wrap his head around why the president would do something like that until the girl broke the truth. It all came down to her test score at school. She pulled up a shocking 0-something that never happens, because she usually crushes it every time. She was deliberately shoved a blank sheet of paper like a message with no words. Because her father never once praised her, and she was so starved for his attention it hurt. And just like everyone figured, he punished her. After that day, her wounds didn't just linger, they multiplied and spread like a nightmare. Worried out of his mind, he demanded if she'd been struck again, and she snapped back, "Yeah, it happened again." She shoved in another answer sheet, blank as paper could possibly be. And mid-dinner, she suddenly got into an accident. Now she's convinced her father just plain hates her. The young man flat out said, "I'm not just avoiding my father, I can't stand him either." And she blurted out, "I wish you were my real dad." Those words hit him so hard there was no way he could let that situation drag on. He marched up to the director and demanded that the abuse stop right now. "But you demanded he stop before he kept hurting that child." The director straight up claimed those bruises came from her messing around solo and added that she sometimes acts just like a boy. But he refused to believe it, and when the impatience finally snapped, he was ordered to get back to work. Still, the young man didn't back down, and the president snapped that he had no business dragging personal issues into this. They called it partnership because friendship would have been way too real. And refusing to talk to him won't fix this mess. It could also push him to go even harder on the kid, turning his rage loose. Now he's completely lost, not a clue in sight, and he doesn't know what to do next. While he was racking his brain, hunting for a way to fix it, the president ended up rushed to the hospital with cancer. Even so, the kid stood his ground and stayed right there by his side. The only people brave enough to visit him in the hospital right there by his side. After years of spiraling decline and more hospital stays than anyone could count, his condition finally crashed and burned, and he died. And not once did his behavior toward her slip or worsen. Even his funeral felt like it echoed in an empty world. It was just the two of them in that whole place. And right there, with nobody around, she leaned in and fired off a question straight to him. She leaned in and asked, straight up, if he'd be willing to become her dad. That one tiny question flips everything straight up, changes life forever. Because she managed to rescue his sinking heart. Right in front of him stands the little girl he failed to save. And she told him, straight to his face, that he had to keep standing guard and shielding her. And right then he finally clenched his choice and made it. He'd throw everything he had at the problem just to make sure she was safe. After that choice, he stepped up and became her new dad. The moment she got her new god, joy exploded in her chest. And she secretly prayed they'd keep getting closer and closer till it finally felt like fate. That's why he has no choice. He has to guard her with his life. Kim will slowly wake up on the other side of the car. He's hanging there on the cliffside, teetering on the edge like the next gust could steal him. The car is about to crash down hard to the ground. Maybe it's trying to escape before it's too late. He lunges to wake the guy, then fires off, "Hey, are you okay?" The man mutters a few words under his breath and stops like he's hiding something. And Kiba lets out a huge breath, thank God he's still alive. He demands, "Can you move?" And the man answers, "Yeah, absolutely." He was totally baffled, so he asked the boy if he was trying to help him, and Kaiba admitted he was, even though he had no clue why. Then the man demanded answers, and Kaiba fired back, "I'm helping because he's Cooper's father." If he just left that man there, fury would explode in her. The man's tears start pouring, and Kaiba's worry snaps into place. Now he's got a whole new view of the boy. They're different, unlike him. This boy can actually step up and do something to help other people. Right beside Cooper, that kid wouldn't turn into trouble, so the man looked at Kiba and told him to watch over his daughter. "Cat, don't doubt it, this says you're gonna win." But even the thought of them crashing in the same house crushes him. Kuba nods along, and the man shoots him a grateful look, thanking him for finally getting it. Now they have to race back to where she is, right after they finally clean up this mess. With blood and bruises across their faces, it finally made it back alive. The girl snaps that they took forever, then fires back, "So what were you guys doing all that time?" And somehow, it looks like they've been totally wrecked, like they got the stuffing beat out of them. The man strides up, ready to talk about living together in the same house. Akubaru cuts in and reassures him, "It's totally fine." And she straight up asked, "Are you really about to say I can't do that?" She can't stand it when something pushes back against her and refuses to agree. Yenon laughs it off and tells her she's got his full approval, no doubts, no hesitation. Cuba blurts, "Wait, are you sure it's really fine?" And the man snaps back, "Nope." But because she means everything to him, fear grips him hard, he can't bring himself to say no. Approaching Kiba. He can't afford even one slip he won't be able to fix. And he leans in, demanding, "Do you two understand me?" Chaos doesn't look like it's slowing down anytime soon. With them practically breathing the same air, the man demands Kayla back, telling her to keep her distance. Staring out the window, the girl groans in despair because she messed up again. No matter what she tries, fate always snaps it back to the same heartbreaking ending. She finally exhales pure relief only. Every time she takes a life. People are always scrambling to cover up their flaws. It's ridiculously easy to bend a body once the soul's gone. Right then, Isaida couldn't face her anymore, so she vanished from her life like a disappearing ghost. And honestly, ma'am, you're just like every other one of them. On the cold ground, she can't stop thinking, "I wish I were dead." A boy rushes up to her and she snaps, "Are you okay?" He leaned in and asked if she wanted to grab something to drink. She takes a drink, and just like that, she agrees. Elsewhere, he leaned in and asked her name, like it mattered more than anything. She tells him, "Call me Sasha Goa Hiro," and the name hits like a punch. She wants answers. Why did he come up to her? The boy shrugs and tells her it's because she looked completely lost. He says he used to be drowning in anxiety too, praying every single day that he wouldn't wake up alive. But after grinding through it, he finally spotted a way out, something that yanked him free from the whole mess. She's dying to know what it was. And he shrugs like it's the most effortless thing in the world. He started to believe straight from the gut that God was real. That was all it took, a belief that lit the fuse. To her, believing in something that isn't real feels downright impossible. But the boy won't back down. He swears she can be saved, the same way he still believes he was. Hearing that, she shoots back a question. She's begging him to become her God, so she could finally trust him with her whole heart. It doesn't matter whether God's real, she just clings to one desperate thought, please. Someone save her, and maybe we can pin it on that person. Without a clue what to say, he blurts that he's heading to the bathroom quickly. The tide slides out and he never comes back. Right then, a waitress hustles over and tells them, "We're closing final orders only," and just like that, she demanded the bill. She storms off furious because he's nothing but a liar. Then you step in, telling her you just wanted to save her. And before she could even blink, he was already stuffed inside that suitcase. She swears people get real honest at the very last second, like they can't help but show you who they truly are before they walk out the door. And the moment she cut them down, it instantly belonged to her, an earth-shattering flash that burned as the most intense memory in her mind. So yeah, she can't stop now, because this is the one thing she just keeps doing. Still, she clings to one burning thought one day: salvation has to find her. She looked wiped out, morning had already rolled in, and this was the very first bus of the day. She needs to head home and crash for a while. Right on her way, she collided with a boy who was wrapped head to toe in bandages. She got caught because she never bothered to look where she was going. Suddenly, she grabbed the boy's face with both hands. She kept locking eyes on him, and it made Keba feel uneasy fast. Right after she snapped, "Are you okay?" With him wrapped head to toe in bandages, she couldn't stop worrying that the bug had ripped his wounds open again until you told her he was totally fine, and that relief hit her like a wave. And she told him, "From now on, you better watch every step, be careful," as you watch her stride away, like the moment is slipping out of your hands. He finally clocked it. She was insanely tall. As she pushed farther away, her mind started gnawing on the situation. Once she cradled his face, the boy's courage vanished and pure fear flooded his eyes. Mayu already understood the real reason she kept doing it. She clocked the look on his face and it screamed disgust, so she couldn't help but wonder if that was exactly what he'd been feeling. No way, she started spiraling, overthinking every single little thing. Now she can't stop worrying that he might have seen her as suspicious. She hit her breaking point and couldn't take it anymore. She knew she had to set the record straight right away. They were cheering like crazy because school finally slammed shut for good. No ifs, no buts. She had to know one thing: would Keba be free after all of this? A massive sale was going on right around the corner. Because she and Rio were headed somewhere else, she told him to go to the sale for her. Kibi shot her request down before it could ever reach her. Trying to remember the uniform, she suddenly realized he wasn't a threat at all, just a student. After he agreed to her favorite, Tamata lit up, beaming and thanking him with pure joy. That kiss blew his mind and made him forget how to breathe, and when she promised they'd see each other soon, it should have felt perfect, yet it somehow still set his nerves on fire. He refused to just let her go like this. He figured something was up, so he sprinted to get it done. The discount was only good until 6, and it was already past 5, like we'd missed our window by minutes. As he bolted forward, a hand shot out and snatched his shirt tight. It was the same woman he'd bumped into earlier. She pressed her question and demanded to know what he really thought of her. After staring at her face for what felt like forever, he finally recognized her. Right behind them, Hamada had already closed the gap. She demanded that the woman step away from Kiva. Intrigued, she leaned in and asked, "Are you talking about Yumi?" She swore she never meant to scare anyone. She only wanted a quick no-drama chat with him. Tamata can't help but get curious the moment it hits him. She snapped that the boy was hers, then warned the woman to get her hands off him right now. And with that, it tore away, slipping out of there. The girl looked that woman dead in the face and acted like she didn't care at all. This lit a fire under her, forcing her to think harder. She couldn't stop picturing Tamata's face right as she teetered on the edge of death. But she clenched her teeth, forced herself to hold back, and couldn't act on it. Kithel couldn't snag the eggs, but Tamata brushed it off and said it was okay. At least they pulled off ice cream. And the ice cream burst out in eye-popping, mind-bending colors. Tomato craved that flavor, bright pink, loud, and impossible to ignore, and it tasted like pure obsession. And it hit his tongue like rich, wild chocolate. Just by looking at it, you'd never guess that was the flavor. She dangled a choice in front of him, and he immediately shut it down, because chocolate just wasn't his thing. But once she knew, she swore she'd never ever forget. It splashed right onto her clothes, soaking the fabric instantly. She shoved through the last spoonfuls of ice cream fast because she couldn't wait to get her blouse cleaned. Meanwhile, he and Rio were ordered to sit up, shut down, and behave. They decided to hold tight for the return, and Tamata bowed his gratitude before they could even move on. She shot into the restroom, scrubbing her hands clean. Luckily, nothing had been stained, everything stayed clean. It was time to head back, but that tall woman was still right behind her. She told her to shut up for now. And if she showed us him, they'd wipe her out on the spot. Outside, her friends clocked it. She was taking way longer than anyone expected. Kiba sensed something was off, so he grabbed Rio and told him to check the restroom right away. Nodding along, she told him she'd take a look right away. She dashed into the restroom and emptied no one. Tomato was gone out of the picture completely. Back in Kibar, she blurted out the bombshell Tamata had vanished, and she tore the whole place apart but still couldn't find a trace of her anywhere. But then she stumbled on something in the restroom. The scar she always wore was sprawled across the floor, just sitting there like a warning. Panic rose in her chest as she feared Tamata had been kidnapped. Riedel dropped to the ground, all nerves and panic. Kibbet practically wrestled her awake, shaking her until she finally stirred. But before he could even react, a brutal headbutt smashed into him. But where she should have been, her mind's other personality suddenly took over right at that reader's signal. Irritation flared in her voice as she snapped that they'd hunt down the tomatoes right away. She asked if there was a tracker on her phone that could help her remember something, anything to the beat of her life. He synced her headphones with his phone, so he could scan your device on his phone. In a tiny, cramped space with nowhere to run. She was trapped like a hostage with no way out. With the blindfold tight on her face, she demanded to know why that woman was going to these lengths, and begged the dirt to let her go. To the kidnapper's shock, her victim stayed painfully, eerily calm. But she only truly exhales once she finally lets people in, because the unknown looms over her, and fear crawls right under her skin. Once you really get people, fear just falls away. Now she's demanding that girl prove who she truly is, no mask, no hiding. With a sneer on her face, she demanded the woman let her head back home fast. The second her eyes got covered, she felt the truth in her bones that the woman never meant to end her life. But when the blindfold came off, she realized the woman's intentions weren't what they'd seemed anymore. The woman stares at her, eyebrows knitting as she can't stop asking what's going on with this girl. She can't read what that girl's hiding, and it's driving her crazy. She leaned in and asked, "So what are you even scared of?" But Tamala has no clue what she's supposed to fear right now. If it's about dying, she doesn't even flinch. Fear can't touch her. Honestly, she's absolutely dying to know. She can't stop wondering what comes after death. Maybe it's that crushing emptiness, or maybe there's a whole other life waiting out there. Only the fallen ever get the answer. To her, death isn't the end, it's just another chapter in life, so she doesn't flinch in the face of it. And she's got an even bigger favorite because she saved the absolute best for last. Because she's sure she's not dying here, she finally steps in with a proposal for that woman. She demanded the power to take over the woman's life. You can only get it from the right location, figure that out, and you might just have what you're looking for. And Termata's got to be around here somewhere. Closing the distance to the location. They're convinced she's tucked into one of these apartments. That weird sound hits them like a warning bell, and suddenly everyone feels on edge. Kiba grabs the girl's attention and orders her to find somewhere to hide, then he promises he'll start yelling the moment anything goes wrong. If she hears him, she needs to call the police right away. Her chest tightens with worry, and she can't stop wondering, will he really be okay? So yeah, if the kidnapper isn't the bigger man or packing a weapon, he could be in real trouble. He sprints like his life depends on it, then slams to a dead end. But now's not the moment for him to slip up or lose focus. Tamata already pulled him out of trouble once, so now he has to repay that favor, no excuses. Now it's his moment to step in and save her, no more waiting. She slammed her fist into the wall so violently that it tore up her own hand. But she warned the girl, "Don't you go talking about stuff you don't understand." Because if she couldn't make a move, she wouldn't be able to help at all for her. The girl says it with total confidence, no one knows for sure. But maybe she could finally read what was really going on inside that woman's head. That statement hits her like a punch, and worry claws deeper into her chest. She's spent her whole life chasing the one thing she's never been able to fully get, being truly understood. But the girl said that woman must have been through absolute hell for most of her life. Everybody's lost when it comes to her, and still somehow not a single soul loves her. They swarm toward her with their own wants, then drop her the second they're done. They don't just mess up, they straight up act irresponsible. She gets her completely. She's lived through the same kind of heartbreak before. When nobody loves her, she flips the game and makes everyone fall for her, and when her dad isn't around, she has to invent him herself. That's why she's ready to step into the role of her god. If she wants to follow her, she better start right now, cut those ropes loose first. If she decides to set herself free right there, using her own hands. The girl swore she'd drag her out of despair and never let her fall. But if she won't, she can blast ahead, then finish her off for good. She needs to realize this. If she takes that road, salvation won't ever find her. Keep the trouble going so we can smash that door down. As soon as he steps inside, pure shock hits him like lightning. That strange woman from before is on her knees, pressing kisses to Tamata's hand like she owns the moment. Staring him down, she whispers that she never stopped believing in him. She just knew he'd rush in and come to her rescue without hesitation. But he just has to know what's going on right here. Tamata points out that the woman yanked the ropes free. I was totally lost, couldn't make heads or tails of a single thing. Kiba shoots a question, whose kid matter? And the room hangs in the air. Calm as a whisper, Tamata revealed the truth. She'd been kidnapped by the very same person who'd freed her. The woman admits she finally threw in the towel on tiling her, because now she's staring at her like she's nothing less than her god. This leaves Kibo utterly stunned, like his brain just hit a wall. Now she's declaring it's finally time for the very first divine revelation. Tamata grabs the woman's attention and tells her, "Stop killing people right now." Alma gets the order, and she straight up asks the woman if she can really handle that kind of weight. The one response she could finally deliver, and she nailed it with pride. Then she suddenly realizes no names, no introductions at all. She flashes her badge of confidence, blurts out Tamada, and then turns to the woman like, "Hey, what's your name?" The woman pauses just long enough for the tension to snap. The split second before she finally stepped forward and introduced herself as Sachi Goahiro. After the pleasantries, Tamada grins and tells her, "It's an absolute pleasure to finally meet you," catching sight of her smile and feeling the whole world tip into place. Kiba's instincts surge past the simple innocence of a kid, but at the same time it feels just as cruel. Outside, that other girl lunges at the door trying to get in. She's desperate for someone to finally lay out the whole situation for her, start to finish. At school, Tamada grabs Kiba's attention and demands he look because she's rocking that summer uniform. Looks like it's that time of year again and things are about to get intense. She says it's the biggest relief in the world because now he finally has his arm free. Then the boy leans in and asks, "So what happened after Sachigala?" Tamada tells her that the woman pops back into her life now and then to reach out. That answer felt way too easy, so he leaned in and demanded, "Is that seriously all?" Tamada said she just walked away and left that woman in peace. Kiba realized he was stranded on his own and that loneliness hit him like a warning, making him worry fast. He couldn't wrap his head around why that woman was alone. Your tomato would have saved her, yet you couldn't figure out why she risked it like that. But for her, it was crystal clear, like the answer was right there, waiting to be picked. Salvation isn't handed out, it's forged in the fire of pain. And she still has to be made to suffer way more than this. Tamatic just can't manage to become the kind, benevolent goddess she's been dreaming of. Like Kiba figured, the girl wasn't fighting for real, she was just toying with him. He snapped at her that she'd gone way too far. Right in the middle of their conversation, someone suddenly closed in on them. It was that same jerk from before. That's the same bully who used to torment Kiba. The guy leaned in and asked if Kiba could spare a minute to talk. Tamada shot back that he didn't need to go because honestly, it was probably just going to waste everyone's time. He flashed a smug grin and shrugged it off like it wasn't a big deal, even though it was clearly just wasting everyone's time. Because he had something urgent to hash out with Kiba. They stormed out of the room under Tamada's razor-sharp glare, backed by his men like a wall of muscle. Up on the rooftop, Kiba snapped that he'd rather not talk to him. As they closed in, the jerk snapped that the boy still got under his skin like crazy. He shot the question straight at them, was Kevel the one who'd put that video up online? That was a brilliant move, and now he couldn't stop wondering if the transfer student dreamed it up. No matter what, Kema couldn't help but push for answers. He had to know what he was about to say. Right out of nowhere, he showed up ready to apologize, something Kiba had been bracing for. Rage swallowed him whole, and he ended up smashing the jerk right in the face. It had no idea why it was happening, and that terror hit harder than anything else. Kiba was absolutely seething. He refused to apologize like what he did was somehow nothing. But the jerk just didn't get it. He told him, "I'm not here to start anything, I'm just trying to be your friend." All you wanted was for them to finally click as friends. Rage surged through Kiba as he snapped, demanding whether he'd truly forgotten everything he'd put him through. "That's why I rushed here to beg your forgiveness." Because he knew sorry wouldn't undo the damage. And just as he started to explain, bam, another punch landed. Rage simmering, he snapped and demanded how many more times Kettle was going to smash into him. Kiba couldn't wrap his head around what was happening because in his eyes, it was downright wrong for the god to suddenly try to fix everything. He just wanted that jerk to stay exactly the same. Because if he changes now, there won't be a single person left with a reason to hate him. If that jerk actually read what you said, he'd see clearly that Keb at Truve deserved every bit of that bullying. He said Keba's the real deal, a legit were, no doubt about it. He had to show up and apologize because if Kibbet refused to forgive him, then the hate would just keep burning on. Which made him blurt, "So is Cable against the plan, or what are we really letting this jerk dump that weight off his shoulders?" Turns out Kima was the one backing that idea. If Shelby invited him to call it off and settle the fight without going to war, if that jerk beat him, Cabell would be forced to swallow his apology and move on. But if Keeble won, he'd get to do whatever he wanted to him. Keepus claimed it was way too easy for him to say those things, because you could team up with others, square off against evil, and finally put it in its place. But Kiba just couldn't pull it off. He snapped his target straight between the legs without hesitation. He'd swing with dirty tactics because rules meant nothing to him. And yeah, he was absolutely terrified of that jerk. Listen, no matter what, we kept hammering him with punch after punch. until the jerk finally snatched both of them and clamped them tight in his hands. He told us he'd been getting pummeled from the second he opened his mouth, and every hit was agony. It was Kiba who tipped everything out of balance, because he always sneered at him like he was beneath him. He didn't want anything else, he just had to get through to him and talk. She finally clocked it. Right in front of him was a heart twisted up in confusion. That jerk hated getting ignored every single time. It rubbed him the wrong way. Right when it was almost his turn to strike, Tamata burst in and split the distance between them. Fists doing the talking at full throttle is the perfect move for peak youth. But nope, there's still something missing, and she knows exactly what it is, down to the last detail. It's missing that kind of love that would actually change everything. Marching up to him, she shot a bold question: should they spin up a little love together? He had zero clue what she was trying to pull him into. As she turned to go, she shot Kedavok one last goodbye. She grabbed Key Button and told him, "Don't bolt once I'm back, we're settling this for real." He could only stare in disbelief as the two turned and walked off, leaving him stunned. After that, the class carried on like nothing happened, same routine, same noise, but you could feel the tension underneath. Neither Tamata nor that jerk came back to class, and it started to drive him up the wall. Harry swung over to ask if you had any idea where Tamata was. She stormed out with that jerk in her wake. She clung to the words she'd said she'd create love. His mind started throwing out weird, jaw-dropping thoughts that left him completely stunned. No way, if it was true, he wouldn't survive it, not even for a second. His firm got hit with a notification, and he learned she'd already slipped back home earlier. So he tore himself away and said goodbye to our Hera. He bolted back home, desperate to catch Tamata. As soon as she steps in, he greets her and fires off, "That jerk's got something to say." Kibble never thought he'd hear a single word from him. The very first thing that crossed his mind was that the news was about to hit him with bad news. But that jerk would brag in writing about everything they'd done. He closes in on K. Butter, then drops a confession he can't hold back. He almost begged him to stay back until he could hear that jerk say, out loud, that he loves him. After he finally sat down and talked with Tamata, it all clicked for him. What do you really think? Could this be true love? Or something darker? Kiba's completely stunned. He has zero clue what to do next. So Tamata leans in and hisses a few secrets straight into his ear. She admits she basically mind-bent him, like she rewired his thoughts. After everything, she knows one thing for sure: Kiba will not let himself get bullied like that ever again. To stop that, she made that jerk fall head over heels for him. She pulled it off so smoothly it basically blew past even her wildest expectations. It's straight up too insane to be real. That jerk keeps pressing, demanding to know what they're even talking about, so Kiba snaps at him to shut up. Hand in hand, the jerk promises he'll go all out to make Kaiba actually like him. Kaiba's worst nightmare spiraled even faster than he ever imagined. Closing in on him, Tamata blurts out that she's got something she absolutely has to share. She's wishing more girls would learn how to do that too, because there's something amazing about it. She shoots off an apology for the crazy short notice. He decided to crash at Drick's place for the time being. Of every outcome imaginable, this one's straight up the worst. And now they're smashing into the exact same spot again. Our boy is not feeling this one bit. Tamata's about to kick off the ultimate girls' night finally. The chaos is about to explode. She's all set to crash the wildest pajama party with her squad. She told them, "Start simple, introduce yourselves." And Rio goes first. Still totally unprepared, the girl blurted out her name on the spot. That lit a fire under the little wild child, and she spiraled into a frenzy because her two friends were finally getting into a real conversation. Sachigawa flashes a huge grin and introduces herself like she's already got everything under control. She can't stop herself. She thinks that other girl is insanely hot, and it shows. Super cute. And now that everyone's finally finished their intros, we can get this show moving. All right, hold up, because this epic night, it's snack time, and we're diving in. Tamata tore into instant noodles and piled up a whole mountain of snacks. After she flopped onto the couch, she tossed out the idea to talk about love, but the volleyball player leaned in way too curious. She couldn't stop wondering why they were throwing a girls' night. Then she made it crystal clear she was thrilled to be invited. Then our quirky girl leaned in and blurted, "I wanted to get close to her friends and learn them for real." Meanwhile, our protagonist is fully losing it, straight up melting down. Plopped on the living room floor, he can't stop replaying how he wound up in this total mess. That sweet boy's about to unload some heartbreaking news because there's only one bed in the whole house, and he's scrambling to crack hilarious jokes before the tension crushes him. But our protagonist shrugged, chose to crash on the cold floor because it was the only solid thing that would actually hold him up. That sweet kid promised he wouldn't cause any trouble, but trust me, our protagonist isn't exactly trying to tempt fate either. With everything finally locked in, the sweet boys stepped up and suggested they kick things off by tearing into a steaming bowl of instant noodles and just like that, our protagonist turned to the sweet boy and thanked him for letting him crash there. That thank you hit him so hard it basically cooked his brain. They were so mortified they practically bolted out, rushing to get their noodles, leaving our protagonist to stew in this whole mess all by himself. He can't believe that wild girl is actually throwing a girl's night man. That kind of youth has to feel unreal. Sharing a night with a sweet boy feels wildly awkward, especially when you two aren't even friends yet. At last, the sweet boy came back clutching a steaming bowl of noodles. And he teased that there's a festival happening next weekend, so get ready. He pushed for them to team up, but our protagonist shut it down in seconds. But deep down, he's already thinking about that festival because he's about to do something. He really wants to pull that wild girl in too, because just imagine the kind of vibe they'd create. Next day rolls in, and our boy is scrambling to send a message to the wild girl. After wrestling his courage for what felt like forever, he finally slammed send on the invite and asked her to meet him at the festival. Shocking our protagonist, she grinned and said yes, then added that she'd love to go. Knowing she said yes so fast absolutely lit a fire under him now. Now it all boils down to one thing. Will it be just the two of them roaming that festival together? Because once you see how that wild girl moves, you just know she's about to roll up with a whole crew. So our boy made it crystal clear he wanted it only to be the two of them, which she eagerly agreed to that very night. And while he went all out with celebration, the sweet boy face planted into bed, finally done with the day. At last, the festival day finally slammed into place. On the other side of that door, the wild girl is dressing up in a rush ready to burst out into the night. This totally breaks our protagonist, his nerves go haywire, and it's like time just freezes in place. Tamata finally erupts, screaming that she's ready. She's fishing for compliments, asking if she looks good but our protagonist's brain is frying, he can't even spit out a single word. Until he finally blurted out, "You're super pretty." And that was when everything changed. That jujutsu fighter outfit, it absolutely slapped straight up fire on her. The girl lit up and thanked him for the compliment. Now it's time to hit the next step, right now. To make it to the festival, you basically have to fight for space because it's mega popular, and the streets are jammed with people partying non-stop. This makes Tamata light up like crazy. Summer festivals are pure fun every single time, and she realized tonight, fireworks were about to explode in the sky. Since they're going to be together for a while, she pushes the idea, let's grab something to eat, because she's totally obsessed with that grilled squid life. She shot forward like lightning, and our protagonist got left in her dust. He's messing up again, just a silly boy who can't even. He couldn't push his way through the crush of people. This snapped the wild girl into action, and she grabbed him by the arm. Because the crowd's packed tight, he can't risk losing her, so he grabs her hand and pulls her close. Now the two are dodging through the crowd like they're racing against disaster. They barreled through the crowd, fingers locked, hand in hand. Since our main dude is a complete wallflower with zero clue how to talk to anyone. This is a huge deal for him, and the girl face turned away keeps her eyes locked on the path ahead. He blurted out his soul and confessed, "I love you," right to her. Tamata casually shot a glance over his shoulder. Now our main dude is like, next festival and every hangout after that, I just want to kick back and chill with her. He's dead certain his heart will never belong to anyone but her. Oh man, how clueless can he be? This is just the kickoff, my dude, and it's only getting worse from here, trust me. Now he's all cracked open emotionally, blurting that he loves her more than anything, while this brutal tightness clamps down in his chest. And yeah, totally unsurprisingly, the worst thing imaginable finally went down. The girl swallowed her pride, then quickly apologized, revealing she's nothing but a hollow shell. She doesn't have an ounce of love left to return to him. Seriously. She's completely lost fighting to untangle her own feelings while trying to reach anyone at all. She doesn't have the slightest idea how to love someone. But for our sweet beta, none of that even matters. He's totally fine with it, because he loves her exactly the way she is. Now that he'd shown real courage, she leaned in and decided to see how far her luck would take her. She closed the distance to the beta, thinking she was finally going to steal a kiss from him. Spoiler, nope. She begged him for a promise, one he'd vowed to keep no matter what. He'd never let a single ounce of unhappiness touch him. If he can smile like this, then yeah, he can love the same way. He can love her any way he wants. For real, those tense, honest conversations that happen right before someone finally opens up a relationship for. No doubt then the girl finally slapped her terms on the table for this poor guy, and he still doesn't even realize what it truly means. As his brain races overtime to crack it, fireworks burst across the sky. Watching the show, the wild girl suddenly clocked it she'd totally misread the time. They've got to move fast because there's a front row spot with a deadly view of the fireworks. But while she strolled down the path, her sandal snapped in half right under her foot. Our main guy, looking weirdly like a cow, shot her a worried question, asking if she was okay. Luckily, she landed without a scratch, but when she tried to move, her legs just wouldn't work anymore. She tilted her head toward the sky, wishing she could burst into those fireworks and feel them up close. This juice-up lit a fire in our bovine buddy's chest then, who snatched her up like she weighed nothing. He only cared about one thing, then he told her, "Don't stress, because once puberty hits, he's going to cash in every bit of those gains so he can lift her and carry her straight to her spot." That show of power sent the wild girl soaring with excitement like she was a princess being lifted in someone's arms. Our main dude's confidence got rattled, and that comment made him feel a little shy. She even thought she didn't want to be carried, but whatever. At that point, nothing mattered. The wild girl suddenly clocked it. This little cow sometimes gives off straight-up masculine energy. So what did those words smash into the beta's brain? Yeah, boom. They blew it sky high, totally destroyed it. And as they rush to their spot, the wild girl begs our main guy, "Please stop teasing me so much." After they battered their way up a brutal flight of stairs, they finally made it. Tamada tipped his hat to our main guy. He's absolutely cooked after this mission. And he even completely forgot the fireworks that should have lit up the sky somehow. They vanished from his mind. That summer night was still blazing overhead, lighting up the sky now. Now that they can finally take it all in, they kick back and soak up the beauty like it's made just for them. Tamada can't stop wishing they'll get to see that same festival again next year. Our main dude wanted the world to stop cold like, right this second so he could. This wild girl had me hooked seriously. He couldn't help wishing the universe would bless him too. So his wish finally had a shot at coming true. Finally, he lunged in out of nowhere and managed to wrap her in a tight hug. Our main dude is chasing one thing, only a chill, no drama life with that girl by his side. And he couldn't let go. He just wanted to stay curled up with her a little longer. The very next day, someone pounded on the door with non-stop urgency. He thundered on his door the second he opened it. Our main dude perked up when he heard a girl's voice. He figured they were just salespeople, panicked, and blurting out apologies, insisting he wasn't interested. Then bam, she throws him a wild question. "So have you been happy lately?" If Kubaru senses he's happy, he'll swoop in and guide him right away. Man, this feels weird as hell. Our main dude just got dragged into what looks like a cult invitation, and I need to fix something fast. I thought it was a girl, but nah, now it looks straight up like a twink. Now our main guy has to know who the heck is this Kubaru. The voice on the other side of that door blurting out that they see this person as their god. Now our main dude is dead, sure he just ran into a complete weirdo. Tamada shows up out of nowhere, and she's grilling us. She wants to know why our main guy took forever to answer the door. And the guy on the other side in the middle of it all. Instantly, Kubaru, I recognized him at once. She leaned in and told me, "I'm selling the wild girl." She totally just face-planted because her. He snapped her name out like a command. Our main dude is trying to pin down when this wild girl got promoted to cult boss, but she's adamant. She swears she never signed up for any of it. She jabbed a finger at that oddball and even blurted, "That wild girl has followers now." With zero chill, the wild girl tossed out like it was nothing that Makoto asked if she could start a fan club. This news straight up rattled our main dude. He went fully shook and kind of freaked out. Makoto insists it's 100 legit, like you can't even doubt it. Ever since that wild girl risked everything to save her, she's going all in, because when everything hits the fan, the only guiding light she can trust is that wild girl. And now she's on a mission, throwing her faith to the world like it's the biggest truth ever. Staring down that wild girl, our main dude's brain basically short-circuited. He's more confused than ever. Makoto's hiding even more secrets. Wait till he spills them. She's gone fully cuberized on our main. Bane dude is getting wiped out trying to keep pace with the full-blown chaos that wild girl drags everywhere. This twist lit up Makoto's curiosity and made him wonder what their connection really was. His face went bright red as he blurted out that they're still friends. Makoto totally freaked out. This news felt like fate, and suddenly it was clear it would bring them together. And she's got an invite waiting for both of them. To come see the castle where she lives up close. Our main dude's jaw drops, he can't even find the words. Right beside that wild girl, there are bodies stacked up on the ground. Wrapped up tight, he can't even tell if those bodies are breathing or already dead. Or you're just wildly terrible at hide and seek. Tears streamed down her face as Makoto begged the wild girl lunged into danger to save everyone. That's exactly what she was begging for. So she can rip through the chaos and save every last one of them. Our main dude, just like the rest of us, totally lost, wants to know what kind of saving she's talking about, and Tamada immediately agrees, leaving our guy even more. Still completely baffled, he shoots back an answer for her. She slammed the truth down like a death sentence no one was getting out alive. And Tamada shot him a question, do you really not feel bad for those people? Makoto, though, he's gearing up to unleash the salvation ritual right now. He pushed a pair of scissors into the wild girl's hands so she could slice those cocoons open. The more freaked out he gets, the main dude blurts out, so is there anybody in there? Makoto steps in and confirms it's all true. Those are real living people who've been hanging out in those cocoons for a full month, completely locked in. Just sitting there, ready to be yanked under the wild girl's control. They've been holding their breath for ages, praying that cocoon finally bursts open. Our main guy just has to know how those idiots keep dodging death. And that second wild girl leaned in and said the answer is freaking mysterious. Those fools' desperate need to be saved is what kept them breathing all this time. Now she's got the scissors in her hands, wild girl, ready to slice open those cocoons. Bit by bit, she starts building up her plan one move at a time. Like an angel, pure sweetness in human form. Swooping in to save or maybe doom those poor souls. Some of them finally tore out of their cocoons, now they're scrambling, desperate for the wild girl to lead them. Makoto knows better than to let those fools keep firing off questions. Bombarding her with questions about their savior just to keep her from getting annoyed. Our main dude is just as clueless as the rest of us, completely, totally lost. But the moment those girls burst out of the cocoons, they're begging to be guided. And now the wild girl decides every move from here on out, run. With their lives on the line, Makoto grabbed the wild girl and begged her to lead the way. Tamada froze dead silent the second he heard that request. And our main dude looked them dead in the eye and said, you people. These people are dealing with some seriously messed up mental stuff. He snatched his girl's hands the second he saw her, trying to break out of that creepy place before anything else happens. But the door slams shut and it's locked tight. Makoto snapped at them, telling them to come back right now, because she refuses to let them slip away from that sacred spot. Our boy froze as the door suddenly swung wide open. The poor girl lunged to block him, but he kept trying to slip out. He spotted a sneaky escape route, and now he's sprinting for the closest exit like his life depends on it. He stumbled right into a set of stairs. Right before they could even reach them, there was no choice left, so they bolted upward. Which is dumb because it just drags them farther from the exit still. They bolted up the stairs as the horde of crazies bore down on them. Our boy stumbled into a wrecked room, saw it was shattered, and slammed the door shut from the inside, leaving Makoto behind completely. Totally fuming out there like the whole world was about to feel it. All alone, they slumped on the floor, and our main dude is totally clueless, staring at what comes next like it just hit him out of nowhere. Ramada told them to just yank the door open and then hour. But our main dude was having none of it, and honestly, it felt way worse than just staying put. He's freaking out that Tamada's gonna forget him, but she swore no matter what this would never happen. Because he's the first doll she's ever owned. He's always going to be special in some way no matter what. Now our boy's ready to put it all on the line because if he's really that special, he's about to prove it. She shouldn't need another doll, honestly. It feels like one of those toxic relationship dramas all over again. Before she even had other dolls, he was already craving her happiness like it was the whole world. Now he's out here chasing scraps of love and demanding one shred of attention like it's everything. He'd never let Tamada matter to anyone else the way she matters to him. Right as her toxic beauty hit its absolute peak, Tamada leaned in and asked the boy straight up did he really need her. With zero self-worth, he blurted out yes because she was the only thing he thought he had. Outside, gods are everywhere. Outside, then Wild Girl doesn't need to be. Be that for anyone else, that's what our main guy slammed down as truth. He leaned in and told her to bounce along with him. Things are getting wild fast because outside is where the chaos explodes. Somebody's ripping through the air with an axe, swinging like they mean to end it right now. Makoto refuses to hand that wild girl off to anyone else. and she's absolutely locked in like nothing can stop her. She lifted that axe like it was meant for a massacre, then she slammed into the door with everything she had, and the no. And that brutal noise ripped through the air, grabbing everyone inside by the attention. She spots the shine and fires back, saying she won't let that crazy girl slip out of their grasp. He came roaring back and drove the axe into the door, blasting it open while our main guy went totally wide-eyed and freaked out. He barreled out, then snapped at everyone, yelling that Tamata doesn't belong to anyone. If she managed to save those poor souls, then they chose to treat her like a god. But for our main dude, she's just an ordinary girl, and he's out here trying to slap that truth into the heads of everyone who's totally missing it. She's got that weird, lovable edge, and when she moves, she goes fully off the rails. But he refuses to look away because she keeps throwing herself into danger every single time. And that charming smile of hers, it just disarms you instantly. Still, she's just a girl, the girl who's got him completely wrapped around her finger. Once again, our main dude shoved them to get out of there right now. Makoto snapped that escaping was totally impossible because they're perched up at the very top of the church tower. And if they're really about to launch themselves out the window, they're about to hit the ground, no question. Hit by a wild, icy chill, our main dudes. He swore that on that very day he'd smash the god of these pagans. The extras were all shrouded in this crushing, heavy silence, then it hit our. The main dude stands by the window staring out like something's about to go down, side by side with that wild, unstoppable girl. He said after this the two of them who will live then, at last, they spring into the leap. Tossed himself out the window, then our main. The main dude is praying the wild girl will actually follow him. Honestly, if they actually survived that fall, he wanted her to go out with him just once. While she plummeted in free fall, that crazy girl flashed a sly, knowing grin. Thanks to some magic in the script, or maybe pure dumb luck, they plopped into soft bushes like living pillows. Tamata burst out, "We made it!" and then shot them a grin like, "So are you two a couple now?" Our main dude froze because that question hit him like a punch to the chest. But the wild girl leaned in and swore it was him who said it. But it looks like she's already choking on her own words, regretting every last one. Right then, the ruminant blurted out that he wanted them to be a couple. Tamata just turned to him and demanded that he look after her from that moment on. Sealed it with a kiss right on our boy's lips. Makoto spotted all of it from the window, and now she's about to. Now it's packed with deep, savage envy that burns like a wildfire. Behind her, a bunch of extras crowd in, all begging, "So what happens next?" But the girl clammed up, and when she looks back, she told the extras that their god had arrived. Just bit the dust. They're finally free from that wild madness. Now everybody can finally. Spilling away from all that chaos like a storm finally breaking. Meanwhile, in the city, a girl with raven black hair. You just watched something absolutely unreal happen right in front of you. She's plummeting in midair right there in front of her, like gravity just snapped, and they slammed into the ground. The human body shattered, turning into pure, helpless jelly, leaving everyone who saw it with jaws on the floor. Watched it happen, and it completely rocked him, as if that wasn't enough already. That body was only the warm-up, there was way more coming. People are dropping from the sky in droves, plopped on the couch beside that wild girl like trouble just moved in. Our main dude is left staring, totally stunned that any of this is even happening. He's really dating this wild girl like she's basically his whole world now, and it feels like he's living inside his dream. With her pressed against him, he leaned in close and started lapping up every word from the news. A terrifying report hit that day. Multiple people had fallen from the same building. Every victim's name had already been written down. And right in the middle of them all, Mikoto, the weird girl who just doesn't make sense. The extras' names. Our main dude starts to panic. Pure shock hits him so hard it basically cuts him off mid-breath. So intense he dropped his phone on the floor. He still can't even process how all of this happened in the first place. Tamata was glued to the news, fully locked in. Breaks your heart as you grieve that life because it's gone. So yeah, it all happened because one tiny factor and everything flipped. Tamata chose to stay right by our main dude instead of leaving. She promised me next day's gonna be insanely cool, and I couldn't wait. They're about to drop into the most intense date of their lives. But our boy is straight up losing it, panic blazing in every breath. Tamata insists they're a couple now, and that should. This is gonna be a wild ride. She's totally unhinged. Dreaming of pancakes, but our guys. He's still a total bundle of nerves, like one wrong move away from snapping. Tamata thinks it's time they start matching outfits down to every accessory, like fully going all in. This is about to be the wildest ride ever. But our boy is still stuck spinning in the sauce, lost and drowning in it. He just shoved the wild girl's hand away like, whoa. Her zero empathy is so outlandishly weird, it's honestly unsettling. People died that day and she's just sitting there, totally unbothered. Now, Tamada's got one burning question: how in the world is he supposed to act in a situation like that? Because she has no clue either, just like him, still standing there clueless and exposed. If you sit there drowning in sadness, you won't undo a single thing that's already happened. They're not coming back, no tricks, no wishes, nothing will bring them. And let's be real, the wild girl already made her choice, She wants him bad, so don't let our dude stay bummed she's coming for him. Because that's exactly what he's been chasing his whole life, right? She presses him again, demanding to know if that's not exactly what he'd wanted. But our boy totally misread the whole situation. He refused to let those people die. He never asked for any of this, yet Tamada swears he did. By craving her presence so badly, he wanted her all to himself. That's the cost of feeling it all. Our protagonist suddenly remembers something that happened the very first time they met. So this is basically the whole idea: a crow's body is nothing but trash. Tamada kind of remembers that moment, and then he's all ready. And he can't help but wonder why she just said that. She called him trash for being stuck and unable to move, and honestly, that's the kind of boring that kills the vibe, right? Our boy gets completely rattled by that. He leans in and asks if she feels the same about people too, and just like that, the air turns electric. And just like that, she shocks everyone by saying yes. Finally, he's starting to put that little psycho in his place. For anyone who worships her or gets way too attached, Tamada can't be replaced, not even in a million lifetimes. Anyone who lays eyes on her is forced to become her doll. That's when it hits, he realizes he's not some chosen guy at all. He's just another doll stacked in her collection. If there was someone way cooler than him. He makes his move and boom, he's toast. He thought it would click in his head for once, but nope, he's not trying to be replaced by anything. Just imagine getting tossed aside the second that wild girl finds someone more exciting. No way he's not letting that slide. Then he sweeps Tamada into another tight hug. This just leaves her totally painfully lost. And now she's got a whole load of secrets bursting to be told. She just detonates the words, "I love you," in his face. Those words slammed into his mind like a full-on tornado. Whatever he's after, that girl is all he can't stop chasing. He pulled the girl close, keeping her all to himself. He refuses to get ditched and left behind like he doesn't matter. Because he wants her glued to his side forever, and yeah, fuck. And for it to go down, he knows exactly what he has to do next. Our boy is hit with every kind of emotion all at once, and it's messing with his head. After that wild confession, emotions hit in full force. He's about to seize the wheel completely and take over. No one can stop him. So yeah, this whole mess. That's where it starts, and everything spirals from here. And boom, right when you think you've got it figured out, a major plot twist hits. Since he refuses to get left on red, he has to seize control of the relationship, no excuses. Stepping out with the wild girl. Next day, everything's about to explode. With the heat rolling in, he leans over and says, "Let's hit the beach, just us two." And that plan is straight up a guaranteed win. Tamada can't contain his excitement today. He's finally getting to see the beach. Because the beach crowd wasn't at its peak. The moment the season kicks in, everything just turns laid back and peaceful. They're standing there thinking, are we really the only two left on Earth? Our dude starts cooking up exactly what he'd do in a scene like this. Tamada leans in and pushes him to take a little more. He inched closer to the water, ready to dip his toes in. So he can seize full control, lock, stock, and everything in between. He watches the wild girl plunge her feet into the chilly water and splash like she owns the cold. If you really want to understand her, you'll have to pay the ultimate price. He's gotta die. Dive headfirst into her world because he wants to know everything. She's itching to hang out again like right now, and she wants to do it with them. A whole lot more. He's determined to dig into every last detail about her. From her absolute favorite foods to all her weird little quirks. Tamada's all in, she tells him. You want the truth? I'll teach you everything about me. Out of nowhere, they burst into the scene like a punch to the chest suddenly, and without warning. A brutal downpour crashes down on them like a wall of water. Tamada's fired up, rain or no rain, he's buzzing with excitement. But our boy is built. This isn't the moment for smiles, urging them to sprint for cover and crash out under that nearby cabin. They somehow slipped into that house like they'd planned it all along. That girl is bummed out because her weather app totally blanked on the rain. Drenched to the bone, our main guy is soaked through and through, is now locked in, staring hard at one spot. To catch him off guard again, just one more time. She suddenly lunged in and wrapped her arms around him like it was the most shocking thing in the world. She was only trying to shake off the cold and get her body warmed up. But damn, it was the whole vibe. He looked absolutely electrified, heart pounding like he'd just chugged a Red Bull. These thoughts completely fry our dude's brain. Right when he finally realized what was happening, he was already pinned on top of the wild girl after she yanked him in with pure strength. Now they're stuck in a stare so deep it feels like you could scroll forever. And once more, he demanded a promise never let sadness win because they were going to be happy together, for real. Back at school, our guy can't breathe. Those memories from that day slam into him non-stop. An ugly wave of anxiety creeps in, inch by inch, like it's hunting him. It's sinking into his chest. When he stepped into class, it felt like every single pair of eyes locked onto him. Everyone was bursting with curiosity to find out what was going on with him. The extras already spilled the tea, and now our boy is officially dating. That sweet guy is clinging to one hope that it's all just a prank. But she straight up vanished on him and left him totally ghosted by our main guy, the one everyone's been waiting for. Tamada blurted out sorry, but she had to tell her crew the news, so at least our guy felt a little lighter afterward. That sweet kid's eyes are glassy with tears, and he's hanging on by a thread because once the next cultural festival hits, he's ready to finally make his move. Then their classmate leaned in and reminded them the festival was right around the corner, and their school runs a secret special department. They're setting up the sports and cultural festival, day by day, one day for sports, one day for culture, and every class shows up with its own bold color, ready to clash head-to-head, with points earned by the cultural spark and the athletic vibe. The class that racks up the most points wins the crown, and Tamada can't believe the two events are jammed so close together. Her classmate gaped in disbelief, blurted out, "Wait, this is the countdown's about to start, things are about to go down," which blindsided the wild girl completely. While our guy was off living it up with his girl, the decision was already set in motion. The extra leaned over and asked, straight up, what they were up to. Guess what, he pulled them on a date. And yep, these two troublemakers just became an official couple. The teacher strode into the room, announcing it was time to crack the books and start grinding. Then panic hit the room, and everyone scrambled back into their seats like their lives depended on it. Nerus, yeah, that's his name, and he's the one running the cultural festival, racing to help every single kid in his whole class. As he talks, the girls totally lose it, eyes glued to him, swooning hard. Nerus is pressing the room, basically asking, anybody got ideas they can pitch? A flood of ideas erupted. Half the crew begged for a haunted house, and the rest wouldn't shut up about staging a play. To figure out why everyone was so desperate for it, they finally decided throw a play on stage and let the chaos begin. And the pick that everyone went for was Snow White. The wild girl had a blast with it, and she loved every second. And our guy's brain started spinning out of control. Seeing his girl as Snow White, yeah, that role would fit her perfectly. Tamada leaned in and asked, so tell me, have you ever pulled something like this in school before? But nah, this kind of chaos, he's never stepped into anything like it before. Because her last performance was back in preschool, the idea of playing again lit her up with pure excitement. She pitched a wild idea they should both sign up to volunteer as actors. But here's the terrifying part. There's a real shot they might not even get to choose their roles. But she promised it would still be an absolute blast. Nerus fired a question at the class, who wants to audition? A hand shot up like it had been yanked by lightning. One kid blurted out the insane pick wild girl for Snow White. Because she's an absolute knockout, she'd be perfect for the job. Tamada was totally blindsided by that idea. But a whole bunch of her classmates came for her. They're totally okay with her taking on Snow White. Still so mortified by everyone's support, Tamada couldn't take it anymore, so he blurted out that they should draw lots. Naruse basically told her, if you're cool with it, then the role's already yours. So the wild girl finally gave in and agreed, as the whole class erupted in cheers and wild excitement for her. Now that Snow White finally has her feet planted and is settled in. All right, now we're about to find out who's walking away with the crown as the prince. Nerus hurled his name. Name the one with the hat, you're the perfect choice for the role. Left our guy feeling absolutely crushed with insecurity. But he shrugged and said it was all a joke, then they'd still have to draw for that role too. Only one of them will win, and that's the last thing either side can afford to miss. And that's what keeps it fair for everyone. One by one, the candidates finally started stepping up. Our dude's confidence in his acting is shaky as hell, but he refuses to let anyone else steal the prince role from him. When his turn finally came, all he could do was pray for a miracle. But the roll he snatched from the dark. The box was completely empty, no markings at all, just a blank nothing staring back. When Naruse finally had his turn, he got pulled into it instead right there, right then. Drawn into the role of the prince. For our guy, that's the absolute worst-case scenario, like the universe just picked the one outcome that ruins everything. Because this guy, he practically attracts the ladies like lightning. With the roles finally locked in, everything is about to kick off. Naruse marched up to the wild girl and tried to introduce himself. Once the script is locked, he grabs his chance and begs to rehearse with her after class, even while teaching her how to act. Tamata's through the roof excited, but our main guy keeps sinking lower and lower. A different guy closes the distance to his crush fast. Absolutely not, this is zero vibes. Then the beta's brain will start breaking through. Was buzzing with raw insecurities like doubt crawling under his skin. He's convinced Tomato is straight up vibing. Had way too much chemistry with that guy. And that leaves our main dude absolutely freaking out with stress. He's totally clueless about what's about to explode the moment they keep getting too friendly. Just picturing it makes his whole chest light up with everything he can't say out loud so vivid it almost hurts. Every single one of them felt awkward as hell. But this time he finally chose to trust the girl. Still, the whole day swallowed him as he spiraled over it, over and over. Our boy just can't shake it. He's stuck in this feeling and it won't let go. That crushing thought kept pounding inside his mind. Drifting through the halls, like trouble was creeping right behind him. He heard Naruse laughing it up with a few people nearby. He's strutting around like he just won the jackpot, because landing a scene with a gorgeous girl feels like pure gold. And that's what makes our main dude feel completely, brutally insecure. Naruse swore he'd go to any lengths because in the end, only the result counts. He doesn't even care about the play. It's just his excuse to get closer to her. A few of her classmates spilled that she already had a boyfriend. And this guy couldn't care less about your main dude's beta status at all. He's making his move on the wild girl no matter what it costs. Now that he finally gets the whole picture, the spark's gone and he's left feeling seriously bummed. His beta status is on the brink of getting ripped away. And he's dead sure someone's about to snatch his girl by a real man, not some nobody. He's desperate, he refuses to let that happen. But he's completely clueless about what to do next. Then bam, an idea struck him out of nowhere. Turns out it might not be as hard as it looks. That other guy needs to disappear like right now. Simple as that with. With that thought blazing in our heads, our main guy is finally ready. He's about to unleash his whole plan. He's sure Naruse is about to use the play to finally land the prettiest girl in class, taken or not. It doesn't even faze him. That's when our main dude snapped no one was getting his treasure, not a single soul. Anyone who dares to get in his way is getting wiped out. And he's already picturing the moment he'll tighten his grip on. He shoved it away with everything he had. Might just wake up in his room. All of it, every single bit, was just a dream. And before he could even breathe, he was met with a warm greeting from. That wild girl clocked it instantly something was seriously off with him. But our main dude waved off her worry and didn't say a single word. There's only 1 month left before the cultural festival explodes onto the scene. He hurried to Naruse just to see if he could steal a few minutes for a chat. Wants to clear up some doubts about the freaking mess. He's convinced they need to grab a backup actor before the performance starts. To be short, he's never been sick a day in his life until this play. The moment he heard that, our main dude leaned in and wished him luck like it was his last chance. Because he's about to need it more than ever. With no backup option left, everything got way better because our main guy only has to handle one person now. He dashed over to an extra and grilled them about the costumes for the play. The girl grinned and said, "Don't worry, everything is going exactly according to plan." The moment our main dude stepped in to help her, the whole grind got crushed early, way ahead of schedule. Now all she has to do is get the actors to squeeze into those outfits. She can't talk to Naruse, and it's for one brutal. Because every time he's around, her emotions hit like a tidal wave. Our main dude told her he could take the delivery and hand everything over himself. Honestly, this is exactly the kind of thing that would help a ton. Clutching the costumes, he grinned and swore it was going to be a total breeze. He couldn't shake the feeling something about his behavior was seriously off, like he was putting on a whole new attitude. Finally, he tracked down the actor from the play and made it happen. Only Naruse felt something was off when they ran into each other on the school terrace. He could have just tossed that costume to someone else and been done with it. Our main dude didn't just move, he shoved his rival and sent the whole moment exploding. Now, no one knows whether he slipped off the school steps or got knocked down the stairs, but the guy's completely knocked out, which is a huge good sign for our main dude. Those clothes fit him like a glove. Wow, this story is packed with nothing but wild people, pretending he's totally innocent like we should believe it are. Our main dude marches up to his teachers and begs them for help, and as he tried to tell them, Naru stumbled, crashed down the stairs, and slammed his head hard. School life kicked back into gear like nothing happened. Some girls were freaking out, genuinely worried sick about that poor guy. Our main dude is basically betting everything that he'll be fine. But they can't lose the focus now one of their classmates is fighting in the hospital, so they've got to step up and find a backup actor. The sweet little boy boldly stepped up and took on the role like he was born for it. But our main dude stepped in and told him to calm down. And he went all in, going so hard it felt unreal. Our main guy figures they should go with someone who can truly pull off that costume, because that would be way too massive for the sweet boy to handle. The costume maker leaned in and swore our main guy would fit perfectly because he was basically the exact right size for it. Tamada shot the idea out there that, so yeah, our main guy has got to be the prince. And he swore he'd go all in, every last ounce, no matter what. Huddled up with his crew, he swore he'd never waste a single ounce of their hard-earned work. They had to make that play absolutely destroy the stage and land as a total hit. So everyone locked in and pushed hard to make the cultural festival happen. A whole stage lights up in the show, ready for the next move. Tamada's totally pumped because it's all going way too smoothly. Like nothing can go wrong and you just know that's trouble. And she's like, so do you want our main guy to run his lines a little more? But at that moment, he just wasn't buying it. Still, Tamada fully acted out Snow White taking a bite and then going down hard. Watching it happen, our boy was left completely speechless. He strides up, spitting out spill the prince's lines. Snow White lies there, frozen in the silence. Tamada jolted awake, eyes snapping wide open out of nowhere. So you're asking if it was our main guy who pulled it off? She fired a look at him so icy it felt like it could melt the world. To play it cool, the girl swore he finally knows exactly what's going on. With his hesitation dragging on, she can only hope hard. She prayed her theory was dead wrong. And don't forget he's the prince in this tale, so he can't just hand the princess a poisoned apple. But our main dude's completely clueless, because the prince would never pull something like that, so he's got no idea what she's talking about. Tamada said anyone can grab the pen and write their own story. But our main guy kept insisting through clenched teeth that he had no idea what she was talking about. With the gap shrinking, Tamada leaned in and said the one truth that mattered. And yeah, that's the part that hits. He's finally happy. Now they've got to seize the moment and make the most of the cultural festival. And yeah, it's already in motion over at school. Our main guy is absolutely buzzing with excitement. And then a few familiar faces popped up in the crowd too. He couldn't wait seeing them again hit like pure adrenaline. Looking back at what happened a few chapters ago, the young man just had to know was our boy finally okay now. He leaned in and said, "Don't worry, everything's cool again," when Tamada burst in just to say hi, leaving that volleyball player absolutely pumped. Heart sinking because she'd finally found her friend, she rushed in and crushed the poor girl in a huge hug, leaving the other guy scratching his head like, wait, what just happened? That's when it finally hit him. Those two weren't just close, they were tightly bound. Still, he couldn't help himself. He stepped in like a relationship cop and snapped that they were way too cozy. The volleyball player shot her dad a chill out while this whole conversation was going down. Our main dude was just out there vibing hard at his very first festival. This was shaping up to be the wildest time ever. He clocked that the chat was heating up way too fast. Our main guy told everyone to stop, breathe, and regroup for a moment. And then he tracked down some snacks, and the wild girl lit up like a firework. First, they dove into caramelized strawberries, then kept right on munching as they enjoyed every last sweet. Then, like a surprise jump scare, one of their friends popped up out of nowhere. She just had to know, did Tamada actually memorize every single one of her lines? And on top of that, she was scared her friend would spiral into too much anxiety. But Tamada leaned in and promised her, everything's fine, trust me. Turns out the real nerves were hitting our main dude. At the festival, their friend jumped in and tried to hype him up, saying he came with a camera to capture every single one of our boy's raw talent, which only cranked the pressure up even higher on his chest. Right out of nowhere, a stranger crashed the scene. It's been a whole minute since he last laid eyes on our main guy, and he looks like he's totally fine, like he's holding his own. With a shady smirk, he leaned in and asked what's going on with our boy like he's seen a ghost. Honestly, after everything that blew up, he has zero right to judge. Since our main dude tried to end his life when he shoved him down those stairs and sent him tumbling. Tamada couldn't stand it. She had to know what those two were saying. But our main dude played dumb and said, like, what's that jerk even talking about? This totally lit a fuse in Narus's head and sent his rage through the roof. Then it hit us. Our guy was pretending he had no idea. And once again, he accused him straight up, claiming he'd shoved him down the stairs. That according to the law, it's being treated as attempted homicide. As we shook our boy's shoulders, Narus leaned in, desperate to squeeze a confession out of him. Our main guy shot us a weird, unsettling smile. They should both stop freaking out and sit down to talk it through.